Why do you hate Timothy so much?
Timothy Chalamet?
Yeah.
Because I think he's been gifted his roles. I don't think he earned them. I don't know why. I don't know why he's been gifted them, but he has been.
I love old Tim. I love little Timmy.
I like some of the roles he's been in, but I find it hard to believe that he's been the best for them.
Damn, dude, hot take. That's hot. Welcome to the new studio with the Borrego Brothers. I'm Lewis.
And I'm Brandon.
We're the Borrego Brothers. And Brandon, we got some notes. Let's go over them.
Well, the first thing I had on my list, and this is because we haven't done an episode in a little while, so
Yeah.
we're covering a lot of ground.
Yep.
So there's like some Halloween stuff. Maybe we can just skip over. But the first thing was, I think, a pretty big piece of news in the film industry is Killers of the Flower Moon, which I haven't seen. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. But have you? You haven't seen it either, have you?
No, I was about to, but then I was like, it's 3.5 hours long. And I'm not sure if I have that time right now.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking over this a little bit because it's been some time now that's been released, but and it's Scorsese, so that's huge, and there's only going to be so many more of his films left.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many he has left, but it's limited, and even that, I wasn't like running out to go see that. And I don't know why that is, because it's Scorsese, it's DiCaprio, it's a period piece. I like period pieces.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it was. Like the trailer, it got great reviews, but I wasn't like running out to go see it. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't too gung-ho about it. I guess I was a little worried that I don't really. I think what scares me a lot is coming up as a director of how, because if we love Scorsese, and we're directors ourselves, if we don't go out and see those movies, and we love movies dearly, it is a little concerning. But I think it's a little different because we're also business owners. We don't have nearly as much time. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of conflicted because there was just something that it didn't appeal to me. There was something about it, and I was trying to figure that out. And I think for one, The Irishman left a bad taste in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of filmmaking intrigue for myself personally now, I don't know. I'd like to see something kind of wildly different, I guess.
Yeah,
And this story for me just kind of like, it looked like it was pretty middle of the road story wise, and then especially cinematography wise. And this is not a shot at anybody, right? But like, I'm like lighting and cinematography, and I have like a very specific style that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And not to be disrespectful, but for some of like the old directors, a lot of times that goes by the wayside. The cinematography kind of goes by the wayside. They focus on other things. They focus on story and whatnot and stuff. And they kind of let that slide a little bit. I've seen with some directors, and with Scorsese, I don't know. I feel like that's one of the things that like The Irishman felt like it was like the cinematographer was left to his own devices. And with The Killers of the Flower Moon, I don't know. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, but just from like the trailer, that's how I felt. With the color and the look.
I think what's interesting, it does seem very one color palette. It seems pretty dark for the most part and pretty
Mhm.
shaded.
Mhm.
And so the color grading seems that way and very, very moody and very dark. And I'm pretty sure that's what it is from everything I've seen. One thing that did excite me, though, I had somebody told me this. It was a friend of ours. I can't exactly remember, but he was referring to it's another What's Eating Gilbert Grape performance from Leo. And I thought that was very interesting. It was so interesting. I'm like, I really want to see it now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Like in terms of just the quality of acting?
Quality, but he's also a little lame.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
little lower IQ, and it's pretty obvious in the film. And I
Right,
think
right,
they
right.
use that as a story tool. His that performance because
Yeah.
he's deliberate in that kind of person,
Right.
and so that made me really want to see because I love What's Eating
Mm.
Gilbert Grape. I mean,
Yeah.
when Leo does that method acting that way, What's Eating Gilbert Grape is one of the finest performances of a person that is mentally challenged you will ever see.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible, you know. Um, so all jokes of Tropic Thunder aside, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
he definitely went there and he
Right,
went
right, right.
and he was very respectful in how he did it. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I've never really seen anybody because if you look at Sean Penn's performance in he had a similar. It was another movie for where he was a mentally challenged person. I forgot what it was. Let's see.
Sean Penn?
Yeah, Sean Penn. It was what was the name of that movie?
Uh,
Sean Penn. Pull it up, Jamie.
Rain Man's another one.
Rain Man is Sean Penn is um
I was just rewatching Rain Man.
I Am Sam.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Mhm.
I Am Sam. So that one is actually pretty controversial because some people felt he went too far and it was too much of a caricature of a mentally challenged person. And
Yeah.
whereas what was
Rain
it?
Man.
Rain Man?
Mhm.
I mean, he went just as far, but it just seemed more authentic. It's weird. Um, so
It's interesting to see actors have a take on those type of people. Um, Tom Hanks, Forrest Gump.
yeah, Forrest Gump.
You
Exactly.
know,
He was a little lower IQ.
it's probably yeah. Like I feel like in the spectrum of mentally challenged, roles, Leo's probably more on the Forrest Gump side. To where
I think
I mean, I
so.
don't think he's mentally challenged, right?
I don't think
He's
so.
just lower IQ,
Yeah,
and that's kind of
exactly.
how Forrest Gump was.
Yeah.
He wasn't necessarily mentally challenged. He was very low IQ and played that sort of role. And it's interesting to see actors have a take on that because it's like the preparation. How like it's interesting. How do you prepare for that kind of role? I mean, I'm assuming you do a lot of research with those people, but to get into the mind of those people, that's pretty fascinating. Um, because well, I mean, I don't know anything about it. Seeing them do it, like I was watching Rain Man with Hannah, my girlfriend, and I was watching the movie, and it's a very like 80s movie, like Hollywood elements and stuff.
Right.
And then, but then you just have Dustin Hoffman, like freaking
The Freakazoid.
just a total freak of acting. Just like I don't care what this is for or how much money you're making or like what is going on around me. I'm going to act my fucking ass off. And he's just unbelievable. It's funny because there's all this glitz and glamour with that they just chose that way of filmmaking for Rain
Yeah.
Man. It's like very vast and beautiful and like there's big Hollywood shots and stuff.
Yeah.
But Dustin Hoffman's just acting so well in it.
He's out of control.
Yeah. And you just and I was just like, man, look at his phenomenal acting. Like this he had to have just prepared himself so well for it and gotten in the minds of these characters so well. And you have to imagine that's what Leo did. And if Sean Penn didn't do as accurate as a job, maybe he didn't do that as much.
Who knows, dude? I don't know.
Or maybe he was spot on. I haven't seen that performance. So
I Am Sam.
I
You
don't
haven't
know.
seen that?
I haven't seen it in a really long time. I don't think I've ever fully seen it. I'm familiar with it, but I don't think I've ever seen the movie front to back. Or it's been a really long time.
Well, method acting in general is a treat to me. I love it. So, I mean, there's so many crazy stories of method acting that I adore. One thing that I wanted to pivot real quick, want to talk about, is how things have changed over the months, especially over our last podcast. We've made so many big changes because I also, I want to talk about business on this podcast too, and marketing and whatnot, especially within video marketing and what's been happening, what's actually important, something you can apply to your own business. So we'll talk to the business owners first because we're always filmmakers at heart. But it doesn't look like it. We are finally scaling the business. We've gotten HQ, which is pretty amazing, headquarters, which is we're sitting in it right now, which is really incredible. And we had one of our best months ever. I believe it was our best month ever, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Last month that I'm very, very excited about. And and if you own your own business, one thing I've noticed after speaking to hundreds of business owners, I mean hundreds, that 95, it's always going to be the problem, but most people who aren't at least 1 million or above have a customer acquisition problem. Even people who have 1 million, because we've been talking to leads that have 1.5 million in gross revenue sales, but they still don't have the customer acquisition totally dialed in, right? And that is the number one problem we solve now as videographers, right? So most videographers and we're filmmakers, but we have a direct response focus, right? So, and you never really hear that.
Well, yeah, one of the big pieces, yeah.
Yeah, you never really hear that from filmmakers or videographers. I mean, they never want to claim that. And I said on a video recently, the SMMA space, because we know the SMA space really well now. The SMMA space, social media marketing advertising space, which we used a lot, is that they may get a lot of shade and it may be like a lot of hate sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that you gotta praise these guys for is that they're willing to take on a responsibility that most people will never want to take it on. They're willing to get leads. They're willing to try to generate business, So why do you feel that videography and filmmaking as a whole don't ever focus on return on investment?
Videography and filmmaking?
Mm-hmm.
I think for a long time it's been separated in terms of industries. And so you've had videographers and at the higher level, filmmakers doing promos, commercials, and they're specialists. And so they just create it and then they hand it off to whoever's going to package and sell that for the company that they're working for. So there was a system that was established in, these sets of industries to where we'd go from A to B to C, we'd go and D, whatever, to where we'd go hire a videographer, freelance, or a filmmaker for a high-end commercial, and we'll collaborate with the marketing agency who will put all this together, and then the marketing agency is working for the company who's their client, and they'll correspond and everything and negotiate and get that piece out from there. And real quick, just before I finish that thought, in case anybody's confused, by what we're talking about, we're filmmakers, and we direct films and create creative pieces, but we also work in our business doing film and marketing for companies.
Mhm.
And so that that's how we make a living.
Yeah.
And so that's a big piece of our lives, and as well as this podcast, because we talk a lot about current events, because it's fun and it's the creative stuff, but we also have this business we're running too.
Yes.
But yeah, essentially, technology has just shortened all those gaps and allowed people like us to roll all those things into one for ourselves,
Yes.
for our company. So we're able to do the video, we're able to do the videography, as well as the high-end commercials, everything in between, which maybe 10 or 20 years ago, that wasn't possible because of technology gaps.
Yeah.
Right? Like the camera I buy for $10,000 today was, well, it didn't exist back then. It was like $150,000
Yeah.
10 years ago. So that's a
10
huge...
years ago. 10 years ago. Is that true? You think? With the Ursa?
Well, that's what I'm saying. A 12K camera didn't exist. Maybe like 60, like if we're looking at
think
like
of the equivalent. Yeah,
I mean, a 12K didn't exist back then, so it would have been like, I don't know. But if we're looking at like I don't know if there was an 8K camera back then, but let's say like the top of the line at the time was like a red that was commercially available. It was like, the Red Dragon or something was 65 or 80,000 or something, And so that's technology that's decreasing that gap. And that's just a piece of equipment, right?
Yeah.
But the other part of it is technology's rapidly increased our ability to learn and create.
Yeah.
And it's this fusion of learning and technology, because I learned the cameras, I learned, the editing system, and together we learn the marketing and sales techniques to where we can, reach out to these big people to negotiate, contracts, and we can offer and promise them high quality marketing solutions.
Well, also look at this. I mean, talk about, because this is not an easy thing to really break down. We've been having a very difficult time for years hammering down who we are, how we should service. I want to talk about that story because it's a tumultuous, it's crazy. And it's crazy how once you flip the switch, things can fall in line. But because we hear a lot about niching down, right? Niche.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. You have to understand principles behind that. And there's certain principles. It's like niching down. Why does it work, right? So why does niching down work? But here's the thing: did we niche down? Yes, but not like how you would think. And that therein lies our biggest issue, right? That was our biggest issue for so long. Okay, because if someone would be like, well, you just need to niche down to, because that's how, when people say you need to niche down, usually they say you need to niche down to chiropractors, servicing just chiropractors.
An
industry, servicing just specific industries. That's the general term. Most people, but no one ever really talked about niching down service-based in a geolocation, in a geolocated area. So talk about why niching down is so important, but how it can sometimes be misleading.
Yeah, I mean, It's difficult because it is a long road that we went on, and finding the solution for our business, I think it took so long and was so difficult. One, I mean, because we were young and we were learning things, of course, but two, we were trailblazing. I mean, there wasn't a set path we created this for our business.
Yeah.
We didn't look at anybody, we didn't look at any one business and say, I'm going to do that, but better. We didn't have that. We made up what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So that's really difficult. And to create your own market for that, I mean, it's just, it takes a lot of time. And we spent a lot of time doing individual services, trying to figure out, what was working for our business and what was, you know, uh, most effective for our clients. And so that's difficult. But in terms of finding the niche, I think what it comes down to is knowing your audience, knowing who your client is, who they are, what is going to appeal to them, and using the talents and the exceptional services that you have to the utmost advantage, because we figured out what worked for people, what worked for us and other people with our sort of slew of services and the way to provide them. It took a lot of time to do that. And we settled on okay, we're not like an industry based niche company. We had to figure that out, which is difficult because it's not easy.
No.
Well, it's difficult because it's not easy, duh. But it was challenging because it's not simple. Like when you market, like if you're a wedding videographer, not to say that's easier. For me, that's impossible. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I would go crazy if I did that. And it's also a bit of a rat race, but it's more traditional along the lines of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To where you can do a lot of the traditional things because there's an established market for that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a system and there's protocols and there's expectations, and it's kind of laid out there already for you.
Yeah.
When you build your own system,
And there's an advantage to that. There's a huge advantage to that.
oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's right there. I mean, it's laid out. If you're a wedding videographer, if you know how to operate a camera in that way and those systems and protocols, you can go anywhere. You can live anywhere and just start making a living.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. You can make a
it's there.
multi-million-dollar business out of wedding videography. No problem.
Yeah.
You just got to be. You just have to have the business acumen.
Yeah.
And what I would recommend is doing an ad. I mean, if you do an ad and you have fantastic work, you're going to get more work. You're going to get an incredible amount of leads. So
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah. And that's working in an industry-based niche. For us, with our solution, there wasn't any industry specifically
yeah,
that was carved out for this. If we were to go into one niche, we would be settling. And,
Right.
and you and I were never willing to do that. So we were like, we're going to put ourselves out there and what we offer, and we're going to see who's interested.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And again, going back to what this podcast is about, we're filmmakers, and so our commercials are filmmaker forward, if that makes any sense. It's film forward, so it's
Yeah.
cinematic.
Yeah.
And it's not one person that's going to do it. It's not like lawyers just need cinematic commercials. Maybe one likes that. Maybe one thinks, hey, that's a cool style for me. I could see a narrative being drawn over a case that I'm studying. I had a really great story about a a case that I won the family a lot of money, and like justice was served, and I don't want to do like the funny stuff. I don't want to do like I mean, we do that too, but like, just for as an example, like I want to do like a real cinematic storytelling. Like that's what you come to us for. And us putting ourselves out there, it allows us to attract all those people. So we can better find who we're synergistic with, what's going to be the most effective. And it's more of just knowing our audience, who we can help serve, as opposed to any particular industry.
Well, yeah, I mean, so because if you think about it, almost every business has a niche that they are usually. If you find if the usually the more successful the business is, the more focused they are. I mean, 9 times out of 10. I mean, it's crazy, man. I've been talking to so many people, and I can almost instantly, from like 2 minutes of talking to them, know if they're making money or not for real, because they will be so focused and they will almost be calm and be like very matter of fact with things. And they'll be quick and they'll wait for me to respond, and they'll be like, that sounds good. Cool. Great. Awesome. Super excited. Let's do it. And it's easy. It's because they're quick, decisive decision makers. They know what they want. They know how to get it. They just need your help. And that's beautiful. Now, that is not most of the time. Most of the time, it's like, well, I do a little, so we have some services here, but I was also thinking about doing some services here. I'm making money with this service over here. And then maybe I also have a side hustle that I'm thinking kind of doing this. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, I have to like untangle all of your BS, and it's all with the intention of helping you. But they can't even, they're so blind because they're so blind either by their own passion, enthusiasm, which is great. Enthusiasm is great. Passion is great. But when it's so diluted, their bandwidth is so low because it's stretched so thin. It's very hard to be successful that way. And they don't know that. And I am the king of shiny object syndrome. Brandon knows. I am one of the worst. The only way that I cannot be that way is if I have something that's feeding me directly, forcing me to be that way. Luckily, the ads are a perfect solution for that. And it's helped me see my own mistakes and be like, oh, okay, I know what I was doing wrong this whole freaking time. It's funny, now that we have so many leads coming in, right? I've been playing less guitar. I've been focusing less on women. I've been focusing less on, it's like, because before I was focusing so much on so many different things and the business. But now that we're seeing a lot more success with the business, all of that has kind of drilled in to where now that attitude is a lot more focused around the business. And I have we took a Tai Lopez quiz. I have and I definitely agree with it. It's kind of crazy, right? I mean, it actually feels pretty accurate. Where,
yeah, what was it, Life Compass?
Yeah, Life Compass.
Yeah. I mean, I love those types of business personality, assessments and stuff. I think they usually give a lot of insight.
I think they do. Well, to me, it's been one of the only most accurate ones, and it's crazy because it's not even that.
The Colby test was really accurate for me.
Oh, well, I don't even remember that, but
you were a quick start.
Quick start, yeah. I guess so.
That one was
yeah,
pretty accurate.
That was pretty accurate. Yeah,
yeah.
So,
but his was good. The Life Compass.
I thought it was really good because what mine was, because I was always trying to figure out what am I, and it told me I'm a venture capitalist.
Yeah, I thought that one was very accurate. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
and something I think you've leaned into more, and like you continuing to lean into it will be a good thing.
Yeah, and it's like now, okay, but it's great because it gave me that tool of how do you really progress, right? How can I, because I was so worried, because I already know my problem is shiny object syndrome. And it's apparent because I have a venture capitalist mindset. I like to do a lot of different things. It's just in my nature. Okay, so how do you hone in that nature, right? To
Mhm.
make it super beneficial to you? Because venture capitalists by default will have a lower bandwidth because they love to invest in so many different things. So what I decided to do, I was like, you know what? I'll act like a venture capitalist inside my own company to where I'll look at sales as a like the sales section of my business as something to invest into, the accounting section, the customer relationship management section, right? Now I'm looking at my own businesses because like your business, you can split it up into like different components, and you can invest time into each one. And ever since I took that mindset, it helped me focus so much more on everything in a much more beneficial way to where it's made everything so much smoother and faster, right?
Mhm.
We're about to hire. We have hired. He's in training right now. Our first salesperson, and within 2 days, right, he has already booked 2 demos, which is absolutely absurd. I'm starting to notice now that I believe I'm a much better coach of sales than an actual salesman. You know, really feel like that is probably true. I feel like I'm an amazing salesman. I'm getting better every day, and I'm
Mhm.
damn good.
Mhm.
But and I want to be. Hopefully, I hope that I'm a better coach.
Well, yeah, and I think what that comes down to is more of what you're suited for.
Hmm.
Because I think you're more suited at being a coach, mentor, leader, visionary thinker, as opposed to a salesperson, you know, sit down, drill, and do the damn thing and hunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just more of what you're suited for. So you're going to be sort of naturally more inclined to it. You know,
Hmm.
I think that's what it comes down. Because like if you wanted to, you could just be a salesperson, but you wouldn't be happy doing that. I mean, you go crazy just being a salesperson. Just like
Oh,
that's
I
just kind
wouldn't
of how
like
we
that.
are. Like we both of us like having multi interests, to kind of keep us stimulated.
But what was yours?
Mine was um the Life Compass results were like digital or not digital marketing. It was like a marketing manager.
Yeah, I was a marketing manager.
Yeah.
And see, that's the other big thing is I already know that I have a pretty big ego, and I think especially when you're working with family, Brandon and I feel like I've find down to a science working together in many respects. And we're always trying to progress in the relationship, but um, is when understanding what the other person truly is better at and letting them do that. So now I'm more focused on the sales side, and then Brandon is more focused on the marketing side, right? And fulfillment. And we both synergize on different parts of it, but ever since we really made that change, so now it's like Brandon has the last say on the marketing. That was a huge thing for me to kind of give up, so to speak, right? So now I'm like, okay, I have say in the marketing, right? But if there is a final decision maker, it is Brandon's decision. It is not my decision. So if he believes that this will be more effective, ultimately I have to let him have that decision. It's his decision. He's the marketing head, right? And look what happened, right? It's amazing. One of our recent clients, for example, Raven, I need to turn off her ads still, but she asked me to turn them off.
Oh, really?
Yes, I still don't want to, but
Yeah. Well, because like why? I guess. You
yeah,
know.
yeah, I think I'm going to talk to her again, but and just be like, uh, we'll
Well,
see, we'll
you
see.
risk them not going back on.
Yeah, I know. I was like, just keep it on. I'm gonna tell her. So the reason we're saying any of this is because the ads themselves, we did a launch. This is one of the best case studies I've ever personally heard. And it's amazing for her style of business and how small she is. She's a one-woman show.
And real quick, do you want to just talk to me? Because I feel like you're going, like you're talking to the camera, and like.
Oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, just talk to me.
Okay.
Yeah, because you mentioned me in the third person a couple times. I'm right here.
Yeah, sorry.
Just so we can keep it podcasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is better for me too, honestly.
Okay.
Just to converse.
Great.
But you're talking about Raven's results.
Yeah, Raven's results have been amazing. Right. I mean, the results that she's had are unreal.
Yeah.
What are some of the results?
Well, very simply, 50 cents a lead, which is ridiculous.
Mm.
So that's kind of the final result, is paying 50 cents for a lead. That's name, email, phone number of someone who is interested in your service. So that's I don't want to get too into the numbers, but that's pretty ridiculous. Anybody would do that. Anybody. I don't care if you have a lemonade stand.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to pay 50 cents for a lead. That's awesome. And but yeah, so that was the result. But the way it happened, I think, goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about with the whole system we've developed and everything working in tandem, because it was very simple. We went in there, we created the video, we interviewed her, did her script, interviewed people she had worked with, gotten their testimonial, and documented her process. And so it was more along the simpler lines for the type of video we shoot. It wasn't a narrative commercial or anything like that, but it was a great, powerful video that we put out to an audience that was yearning for this amazing service, because she has an amazing service. Her sewing class, she's a sewing studio here in Austin, and people are always looking for events and in different activities and interests to get involved with. And sewing is something tactile. It's social. It's fun, and it's awesome because you create and you can wear what you create, which is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put that out there very simply, just kind of got her authentic stories and process, marketed it out there with a very generous offer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of no surprise that a lot of people were interested, but it's amazing that was a result for her.
Yeah. It was incredible. Nearly 500
amazing.
leads in 7 days.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't beat that with a stick. It's and cash collected. I don't want to say exactly how much because that's her business, but
Yeah.
But 500 leads. She's collected well. So and it's amazing because it's right. It's helping her with. It's helping her with the. With going hyper speed with her business. She's learning so much. I'm talking to her recently, and she's restructured her whole pricing. She's restructured how she does almost her entire business because she's gotten so much feedback, right? Things that she would have had to change years down the road, may take years.
Oh, yeah. Because she's young.
She's young, and she just started. And, kudos to her. Kudos to Raven for being willing to take that risk, because there's some people that have been in business for years, we talk to, and they still want to do things their way. They still want to, they still want to save every little penny. And it's like this young girl just freaking decided to take the risk.
Yeah.
And look what's happened, And she believed in it. She believed in us. We believed in her. And boom, she's exploded.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely different.
Crazy.
This is,
Crazy.
she was getting like 1 to 2 leads a week, right? Something like that. I think it was even less sometimes. And now 500 in less than 7 days. So much so that she wants me to turn the ads off, which is pretty funny. Because she can't handle it. She can't. There's so many people to talk to.
Yeah.
She was like, the 500 leads is good for a year. I've gotten 7 days. I don't know. I can't. I can't get to all of them. I mean,
Yes, you can.
and yes, you can. I believe you can. I believe she can.
For sure you can.
I was saying it's like 500 a year. I was like, Raven, let's do 500 a month. And she was like,
Yeah.
It's so
okay,
funny.
open up another location.
Well, she doesn't want to do that yet. Well, first, like, she'll get at capacity
hey,
first.
why not?
I agree.
I mean, why not?
I mean, yeah. And this was like, it needs to match her vision,
Yeah. I know, I understand. But
Yeah.
I mean,
She does want to do another
that's a
location.
beautiful problem.
Well, that's the thing. We want to get people to beautiful problems like that.
Yeah.
Look, am I right? How dark does it get as an entrepreneur sometimes?
It depends. It's gonna depend on what it is, because like for us, it gets as low as it gets because we are so personal with our business. Like, not only is this stuff I create my livelihood, but it's also my work and my art. Like the commercial we just shot, Casa.
Mm.
That doesn't mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
Like I care about what's on screen there. So if those types of things don't go right, if you're not making money, especially, then it's you get to a pretty low place. But I don't know. At the same time, after a certain point, you can only get so low. For me personally, I can only get so low. I can only get so high, because I've kind of blunted my emotions in both ways.
Of course. Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. How did you get there? Right? Because it wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
There were times where you and I were both, that we got a low bank account number and we're freaking out. And it felt horrible. I still remember. It's like, and you have to kind of go through that pain. It's the how important is pain tolerance as an entrepreneur?
Well, it's tough. It's tough to say because I was so young. So when you're younger, you can roll with things because you don't have so much accountable to you. So it's just you, right? That's a different kind of pain. And when it's yourself, if it's just yourself, you have to be able to endure pretty much anything. And like, as a man, you should be able to do that when you're younger. But it's different when you're a bit older. Maybe you have kids or a wife, and they're having to endure it on your behalf. That's a little trickier. That we didn't necessarily do. But for ourselves personally, yeah, we took it up the shorts for years, a lot, and it was really bad, plenty of times.
It got really, really bad.
Yeah, really bad, plenty of times.
Yeah. So I mean, right? I mean, if you don't, you're gonna have to face that dragon. You're gonna have to face the Reaper several times. And when I say the Reaper, I'm saying bankruptcy. I'm saying getting close to bankruptcy at some time or losing everything. And
yeah, that's what I was telling Hannah too. Sorry to interrupt you, but she was talking about her position and taking on more responsibility and how it kind of scares her. And I'm like, yeah, like that's true. Like I understand the anxiety that comes with that, but as an employee, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're fired, and then you just get another job. For us, the worst thing that happens is we lose everything.
Yeah.
And like we've worked for years to create so much, and still to this day we could lose everything.
Of course.
We
Always.
yeah, we bear that every day.
Yeah.
You know, to where everything could totally go away. That's an entrepreneur.
That's the life of an entrepreneur, you know.
Yeah.
There's so many businesses that sometimes that there's businesses that make 100 grand a month that still go under because of payroll.
Yeah, sure. Or they like, I mean, a lot of businesses, they have investors. A loan, I mean, they have loans.
Yeah.
From the bank. I mean, that's probably most businesses.
That they default on because they can't make because of cash flow problems.
Yeah, they get investors, they get a loan, and they say, "Okay, that was my business plan. Now let's see if it works." And it doesn't, and then they're out of business.
They're out of business.
Yeah.
And now what's wild about so it's a gift and a curse. And for so long you'll feel like it's a miserable curse. Is that you need to have that pain tolerance. Because it's true, both you and I now have probably an unhealthy pain tolerance at this point. It's probably healthy for business, but it's probably unhealthy. I don't know. I'm saying that
it's probably not so healthy as a person.
It's probably not healthy as a person because
I mean, I feel that.
Yeah, I mean, we have an extraordinary pain tolerance, and it's because we've nearly met the Reaper 5 times over the business.
Yeah.
To where, you know, we get a goose egg one month, and we're so close. We're so close to losing it all, or we have a bad contract. You know, look at last year. You know, and look, we're being open about this, but it's like you need to be. I mean,
it's just business.
It's just business.
Mean, everybody goes through that.
Yeah, I don't.
In business, I mean, you make bad deals. I mean, you get stuck in shitty contracts.
Yeah, it sucks.
At the time, it feels like, you know, the world's going to end. But at the end of the day, it's business. It happens.
It's business, man. You know? And, you know, I'm not going to talk about that company, but if I ever met that guy in person, man, I'm not gonna say it on camera. But
well, we can say. Well, I won't say anything about it. I won't say anything about it because I was going to say like the type of company it was, but
don't
just leave it.
No, we'll just leave it alone. Who cares? We're moving on.
Yeah, but I mean, we moved on.
We moved on far past that, but you know what? It gave us amazing lesson. It was a very expensive lesson. And here's the thing is that even though we had a terrible contract, we went and still got into another one. Right?
Yeah. Well, we reinvested into ourselves.
Yes, into ourselves. Into ourselves.
And I will say about that company and this whole deal, like there are a lot of avenues you can go in marketing. There's a lot of different ways you can market. All I'll say is video marketing is a great road. That's the best what I'll
road.
Say.
Yeah, because looking back, oh my gosh, looking back at the results we're getting for ourselves.
Yeah.
For ourselves. That's the other thing that people don't understand is like, guys, this is the beauty of who we are now. We're selling you. We're not selling you. We're practicing what we preach through and through. It's a full cycle system. We're selling you something that we do ourselves to get a lot of business.
Yeah. It's
a full holistic cycle. It's beautiful. It's like the only reason you're talking to me is because of this system that I'm gonna sell you. So I want to give it to you. It's a gift. It's beautiful. And there's so many people who it's like that's not what they do. It's you know they sell and and just to talk more on your point, like, and it's based in video marketing. It's based in video marketing, right? It's so powerful. It's filmmaking, it's storytelling, but it's also direct
Yeah.
response.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And I will say it is a fantastic road. I believe you can make any really marketing tactic work. I mean, truly. But
Yeah.
you need to
I mean, for
understand your
sure you can.
strengths, right? You need to understand your strengths. So, I mean,
It's just in this particular method, we've found a path, and with our combined talents, it's been extremely successful for ourselves and other people.
mm-hmm.
So that's great, and like for me, it lies in the filmmaking process, which I think is like in its essence a very beautiful thing.
It's beautiful, man.
Because it calls back to a video that we did together, which is there's no such is that the video I'm thinking of? Nobody likes ads. Is the video, because we're not creating spam to put out there. We're creating these compelling pieces that engage people in content to where hopefully somebody who's not even interested in the offer can enjoy the ad.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. I mean,
it's beautiful.
And one last note on the science of this, because if you're a business owner and you're listening, you get there. I mean, 90% chance that you are having trouble scaling because of customer client acquisition. I mean, it's like I can almost guarantee it. Now there's a few of you know who you are, where you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing and I can scale, but that's very few people. That's very few people. It's so small of a percentage, and even smaller that do it really, really well. Because if you look at, because the way we niche down is niche service and location base, right? And the way you need to, what I was gonna ask you about was the niche. Because if somebody sometimes, let's say if a coach looked at our business and they were like, why don't you just do video editing? Right? I want to talk about this skill stack of how we actually develop the whole new kind of plan of attack. Because basically it's like, it's SMMA mixed with videography, right? And then direct response advertising that binded it. And then it creates a whole new video direct response marketing, but it's end to end. And then we have an ascension path. We have a phase 2 that can almost quadruple it by developing a website, right? And then we have another ascension path where we can do a curriculum, or another ascension path. I mean, and it makes them money.
Yeah.
Because we have the gasoline. We start with the fire. We start with the lead gen, right?
Yeah.
So, but if somebody that's why it was so hard for us to figure out, because it's a new thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And we're both creative. Yeah. So this is part of the difficulty, but it's what ultimately landed us where we're at, because we have all the creative solutions for the marketing side of your business. That's what we do in a nutshell. All the creative. Anything that your agency is going to outsource, that is what we do. And so, we just we're able to do all that now, and so we can work with bigger clients in that dynamic. If they need everything, yeah, we can do everything. I mean, we have done it all. We've done almost all physical too, aside from billboards. I don't think we've done we haven't done a billboard.
No.
But so real quick, I'm just going to check the cameras. Okay. So we were talking about, our business and the marketing and everything. And I saw this recent podcast clip, and this ties into some of the Ty Lopez stuff we were talking about, where it's a podcast I follow, Lifeline, with Chris D'Elia and his brother Matt D'Elia, and they brought up this clip that they were laughing at that was so hilarious, and you're gonna know what I'm talking about when I'm describing it. It's about this gentleman who brings out his business card, and he's talking about how his business card is better than everybody else's.
Yeah, American Psycho.
No, not that one. But it's a huge business card, and he says this business card.
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Did he put on fire or whatever, or Joel Bauer?
Yes, and we know Joe Bauer.
Yeah, we do.
They didn't know who he was. They just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But we know Joe Bauer. We met Joe Bauer.
Yeah, we met Joel Bauer. Yeah.
And he's a cool guy.
He's
and
cool.
he has this, but I guess that clip has gotten some virality as of late, where he's talking about his fucking huge business card. That is the way to do business cards.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This is a marketing concept, right?
Yeah.
And it's an act. And it's interesting to me because I think it's funny and interesting in the entertainment industry to see where the lines blur between who you are as a person and who you are as an entertainment and marketing figure.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing that all over the place now, especially with TikTok, with like these cringe people, like this is an act. A lot of this stuff is an act. A lot of the drama we see is an act. And this marketing thing, he was just one of the first to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It looks so real because it's in like the 90s. So it looks like nobody was doing that right before Joel Bauer. He was one of the first guys to put on this whole shtick and this act. And it's like, I don't care how I look. I don't care how I look to anybody as long as I get your attention and you remember me.
Yeah.
That's what's important because that's what's going to get me your business, not like how silly I look.
Yeah.
You'll forget how silly I was. When I talk to you in person, I'm actually a reasonable, smart guy.
Yeah. And he is. He is.
Of course he is.
And he knows how to put on the act, man.
Yeah.
He knows how to do it. It's really interesting.
Exactly. And look, that clip still getting views.
Yeah.
But and Ty Lopez is the same thing. Right? Because he did his whole thing early on in the days to where he blew up and got a whole bunch of attention for this silly commercial he got. And he put his respect for himself and ego out of the door. And he was like, I don't care how much hate, how silly I look. I'm going to just do something that's going to get people's attention, And I don't know. I kind of battle with that internally because I did put myself out there. It's not in the most risque ways, but where do you see yourself doing that and like the lines you kind of draw? Like how does that sit with you, that whole marketing content creation process?
I just want something to work for me. It's like I don't care about. Oh, I guess I do care because I don't release it as much. I think that's the one thing that I'm going to make sure in the new year is just to release a lot more content and just to figure that out about myself. Because I'm sure I'll care a lot less when I'm making a lot more money. Because I already have that attitude now that we have that business. The success of that business, of our business right now, right, is giving me a lot more of like a FU attitude. To where I don't really care what anybody else thinks. And really, we don't really have a lot of haters. I mean, but I feel like we do, even though we really don't. And maybe that's a problem. Maybe I need to get some, is get some more attention to where we do. But even the ad that we put out, it's like, it's gotten very popular. And
there's a lot of positivity.
There's a lot of positivities, and maybe there's a method to it to where it's like, you don't necessarily have to get a lot of haters. I mean, there's going to be some just by sheer volume.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just, you can minimize that by just having more of a authentic, attitude. And I believe that I would love just my really authentic self to be already entertaining enough, and just maybe I turn myself up, and
Hmm.
that's what I'm gonna have to experiment with, and that's what I want to kind of figure out in terms of like my own Instagram and um, you know becoming more popular in that way, because that's kind of like our next, in my to me, the next journey is the organic method, right? Is figuring out how to get really popular organically.
Hmm.
And we've had some success with that
Yeah.
on YouTube channels, right?
Yeah.
We know how to kind of do that, but it's its own thing. It's its own thing, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And they do cross over. Organic and paid cross over a lot.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's definitely something in the near future we press the gas on. Um, because yeah, we've done it in the past. We've had success with it in the past. But yeah, we haven't totally committed to putting the stuff out there like we have with other parts of the business. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, quite honestly, it doesn't immediately seem as profitable. So that's why it
Yeah.
hasn't been done, and it's probably
And it's
not.
not. It's not.
Yeah,
But you know,
over time.
over time, yeah. Over time it's far more profitable. I mean, it's likely to be, but it's just, are you willing to spend a year trying to figure it out?
Yeah, can
That's
you spend a
and
year?
can you? Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's why it's like it's not too big of a focus right now, because the biggest focus is just building the business, making it as profitable as possible, and scaling, and getting better at ads, so that we can
hmm
continue to scale forever. And maybe, if you look at the way Alex Ramosi did it, he wasn't doing content from the beginning. He was getting
yeah,
his paper from the beginning. After he got about $10 million, then that's when the dude switched to content marketing,
yeah,
because he had the bandwidth. So, maybe we just need to stay more focused.
yeah. I think eventually. I mean, definitely we'll get more into that, put more of that stuff up. But I just thought it was interesting because it was a hilarious clip, and it's something I think about a lot as we put more stuff out there. How do we want to balance our character
Yeah.
and stuff? Because I don't know, stuff. You still got to live out there. You still got to go outside, look people in the eyes. Who, you know,
Yeah. To me, uh, I don't, it's
well,
like,
it's for the greater good, right? That's the thing. Is
yeah,
like we want to help people. We want to work with people and produce for them for their business. And so the method in which we get there, if it involves sacrificing our what have you, likability, uh, whatever, then that's what we'll do. That's what needs to be done, and we'll do it.
yeah.
But we haven't really had to face that so much. I think it's interesting that some people really take it to the next level and say, you know what, I'm gonna look like a complete idiot, but hey, it's gonna give me business.
Yeah, I mean, I respect that. I do respect that,
It's interesting,
because
yeah,
it's basically like a killing of oneself in a way. Um, and I've even toyed with doing that in many ways.
yeah, yeah. It's like marketing martyrdom.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
much more. I feel like I'm a lot more open to doing that than you are. Um, but I haven't really needed to, so I'm sure at some point I probably will.
yeah. Well, look, when it comes to that time, I know you'll be ready.
I will be ready. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. I, on the other hand, I don't know. We'll see.
And it may not be necessary. It kind of depends on like what goals we want to do, but um, let's just get this paper first. That's all I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well,
Um. Well, one of the topics I had down was Eyes Wide Shut because I'd watched that fairly recently, and it's a very hard pivot in conversation. But one of the things I thought that was interesting about it was the um, like the prevalence of its sexuality in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's what I found shocking upon rewatching it was that I saw the film. It's a great film. I watched a ton of analysis on it because it's Kubrick and there's a lot behind it, which is fun and amazing. But what struck me rewatching it was that the nudity scenes I think were one of the first nude scenes I had seen as a kid.
Mm.
Because and I'm talking about a young kid. And was not supposed to be watching it, but I was a young kid and I did. And when I was a kid, it was obviously very shocking. But as an adult, I was like, this is what I was shocked by.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is nothing. I remember this. Well, obviously, I was a kid. I remember it being so shocking, but I thought there would be some level of deviancy that I would feel rewatching, but I was like, this is so tame. And I don't think that's because it's a tame subject matter. I think that's because we have gone so far out the deep end with nudity and perversion and sexuality in films that we're
Oh, do you want to talk about deep? Okay.
emotionally blunted by it. But how do you feel about that?
Okay, well, I'm gonna cross over into a film that I saw recently. It's called Poor Things,
Okay.
or with Emma Stone.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Great.
So I am very troubled with that film. Now, there are a lot of things in that film that I tip my hat to. I'm like, well, geez. I mean, this is absolutely incredible film work. Absolutely incredible. The set deck, the art on that film is next fucking level. I mean, the color grading, the cinematography is just out of this world. It's just out of this world. I mean, dude, some of those beautiful shots you've ever seen. Emma Stone is, of course, she's gorgeous. I mean, it is an artistic achievement in many respects, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot but just, but you must admit that before what else I'm going to say, because the writing is also incredibly interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
It all sounds great. So, spoiler alert,
Yeah, give it to me.
is there's a big, not a big portion, but at the end of the film, like near the third act, is, and I believe it has like 5 acts, something like that. But near the end of, let's just say, third act, Emma basically starts like having sex on screen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And she's basically like she is a prostitute in the film.
Right.
And it's almost like they're glorifying prostitution after a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's some truth in what was happening because they admitted to. So that's why I'm a little like, what? I want to be careful and respectful, but at the same time, I'm like, it's essentially softcore porn. I mean, she was
Yeah, sure.
she was so drilled into in many, like literally.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no genitalia, but there's a little of her genitalia, which is kind of crazy. It's you don't see but her lips or anything like that, but you do see her runway and you do see her, her breasts, and I'm all for artistic experimentation,
Mm-hmm.
but
yeah.
this is too far. In my opinion, it's like, and it's too far with a misguided intention, because I understand that it's almost like it's a political voice for making sex work okay in a way, or because the problem I have with it is that she started looking at it. She became like hyper intellectual after that, almost as if like having sex with so many men um,
Like awakened her.
awakened her, you know,
Yeah.
and she became so wise
Sure.
after like having sex with so many men, you know, like, and now she's like, I don't need any man kind of thing. And it's like, I'm beyond men. I'm beyond um, being owned by anybody, you know, after
Mhm.
having sex with so many. That was like the motif. And I was like, gosh, dude, this is because basically like body count doesn't matter. Not only does it not matter, it's like better if you have sex with as many men as possible so you can get as much experience as possible. And 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 you become this transcendent like uh, being of woman of like a hyper intellectual with incredible experience. And that's what really eh, I was like, dude, this is horrible. Like it's almost like making it okay to have such a huge body count for women. And I mean, there's there's so many different studies on, and even just common sense that it's like that is a very dangerous road. That's a very dangerous road. Um, and it, you know, really bothered me. I was like, so much about this film is so impactful, so great. I have a lot of philosophical differences with it, but
Yeah.
I still respect it. I still like, I understand where you're coming from. I understand the argument. I disagree with a lot of the arguments. Mark Ruffalo was also a treat. He was insanely funny.
Mm.
Um,
Well, but do you think it's like, do you think that the filmmaker was bringing it out as like a statement, or perhaps there was any irony in what he was suggesting to put out there? You know, because it's a piece of art that can be interpreted.
there's definitely
You know?
subtleties and nuances, but it was also not so subtle on some end because you know her husband. Because basically the premise is like she is there's a genius doctor, and that's Willem Dafoe. He's a genius doctor, and he basically finds a woman who basically committed suicide, reincarnates her, brings her back to life, reanimates her, but
Mm,
puts her child's, it was a living baby inside of her, and puts
mhm,
the child's mind inside of the woman
mhm,
instead of like the baby.
mhm.
And extracts the baby's brain and puts it into the woman. And so she's like, she's obviously starts off as like a child and she grows as a woman, right? And
So she's like a 5-year-old woman,
yes, a
essentially.
5-year-old woman, like in the mind.
Yeah.
And so she has to, and so you're like watching this woman grow, right, mentally through all this.
Hmm.
And she grew the most when she had sex with s- so many men.
So, but is that like part of the fantasy element of it? Like she literally grows when she has sex with a man,
Well, she grows
or
intellectually. She looks the same.
but
She's
that's a
Emma Stone,
fantasy element of the film,
I guess. I don't know.
you know? Because like obviously that's not reality. I mean,
Well,
they made it like
it
a
could be
fantasy
reality to
element.
some people. I don't know. It's not that obvious that it's fantastical. It's not obvious at all. It's more of like she had sex with a lot of men, so she learned a lot about men by having sex with a lot of men. She learned a lot about life and about the world,
Hmm.
and so much so that now she has a mistress, woman, lesbian woman,
Hmm.
who is also a prostitute, and the man that she finally ended up with, which is like this beta male, like cuck, basically.
Hmm.
So, and the person that she originally had, that because she was a wife before, she killed herself, and it was because of the relationship with her original husband. The original husband comes back later in the film, reintegrate. You know, he comes back to claim her once more. She goes back and lives. So she leaves the altar. She's about to marry the beta male guy,
Mhm.
And this is what's so crazy. It's like it's almost like she does this multiple times to where it's extremely selfish. Like she's extremely greedy and selfish with a lot of her acts.
Mhm.
And and she was about to marry this guy after she had slept with probably 100 men. And this guy was still going to marry her.
Mhm.
And then when they're about to say I do, that her original husband before all that happened and the experimentation, her baby brain, comes in and says and claims her, and then she basically just leaves that guy at the altar. She was like, "You're not going to stop me, right?" And she like goes and she wants to find because she wants to learn and find out why did she kill herself, and this man is the answer. And so they're sitting at a table, and this guy's obviously a psychopath. And his biggest claim is that, like, you're my wife. I own you. All this stuff. He's this, asshole guy. But it's obviously like a take on
Misogyny.
misogyny, right?
Yeah.
And it's a take on, but it's also a take on like traditional view of the man owns the woman, right? And so he and he pulls his gun out and he waves it around and he threatens everyone at the life, threatens their
Yeah.
life if they do a little tiny thing wrong, and then he owns her, shackles her, all this stuff. So, and then she ends up killing him, or not killing him, but she like takes his brain out, puts it into puts a goat brain into his brain, and he becomes like this goat dude. So it's like, you know, and
Mhm.
she keeps him as a pet, and then now she has a lesbian mistress. She married that guy, and she's like, sipping mai tais, and I'm like, it's
Oh,
happily
okay.
ever after.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Wow. Bizarre. Well, it's interesting. I mean, because like from a pure film perspective, with those types of films
Mhm.
that like essentially make you go through a lot in order to achieve this ending result. My question with modern day artists is always, is it worth it? Because you look at like going back to where we first started the discussion with the Eyes Wide Shut film, he makes you go through some of these violent and disturbing acts and scenes and all this,
Right.
but it's to a mild degree. And you, and you have to, you ask, was it worth it? And with that film, it's like, of course it was worth it. The scenes were that terrible and stuff like that. And there was a lot of really juicy and engaging concepts of not so far off of what you're talking about,
Mhm.
right? Because in Eyes Wide Shut, the wife is, you know, over. I mean, she's sexualized in a way, and she talks about cheating and stuff, and so
Mhm.
there are these elements of that are hard to deal with. But with what you're talking about with this newer film, there was so much, mud that you were dragged through was this ending. And it's not even the ending. It's not even like the happy ending we're looking for. It is the thought provoking answer to the questions that were raised. Is that satisfying? Is that engaging enough to where it was worth all that? Like take a movie in the opposite direction, Chinatown, which has a horrible ending. It's an amazing ending, but it's very unsettling and it's very unsatisfying.
Yeah.
But intellectually, it's very satisfying and worth going through the film for because
Yeah.
it leaves you with answers to those questions that were raised and a real you know real points to jump off of in terms of conversation with this film. And like I feel like with a lot of films, from what you described, there's so much. What was it all for then? It's just this kind of open-ended, nihilistic perspective of like, why did I go through this? Why
Yeah.
why did you put me through this? What you know? Because there's a lot of interesting points. There's a lot of interesting points to discuss that you brought up, but with that kind of an ending, where's the discussion? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I'm like, okay, so it's all right if she's just greedy, selfish, all so that she can just get away and own everything for herself kind of thing. And just, it doesn't matter how many people she hurts along the way, as long as she gets her way. And, um, and the thing is that, I mean, I was with it for a lot of the ride because it's like, I understand that, in the beginning she was taken advantage of or could be taken advantage of, but even that is it's a little difficult. It was an extraordinary film up until the end of the third act, I would say. Because even though I was in disagreement with a lot of the philosophies, not all of them, because I'm like, I mean, there were definitely moments where he gave a fair and balanced view of what could definitely happen and an interesting take on both sides.
Right.
It
Yeah.
wasn't all that. It's just
Yeah.
like, it seemed like, it's just like at the end, he just decided, blah, it's like he just
Yeah.
was like, I'm just going to like completely bruise,
Well, I mean, and maybe that was a decision enforced upon the writer or something.
I don't know, man.
Hey,
Maybe
dude, that happens
it's
all the
strange.
time.
It's
It
strange because
happens
it's
all the
like
time.
it wasn't. It's like it wasn't. It's that part and that ending seemed kind of out of context with the whole film. I mean, like it really
That's
did.
what could have happened.
It's so strange. It
Yeah.
was like it's like it's weird, man.
Hey, I bet you that happened, man. From what you described, because like,
It's so weird because it's like it was so fair and balanced throughout the whole film, and it was
Sure.
so interesting. And then once it got to that point, as soon as she just like, as soon as she, because what she did, even when before she did all that, if she could take a nuanced, balanced view, because that is a dangerous mindset. It's like that is not one. That's if that is true at any point. It's never true to a certain extent because most men just by default don't want that by a lot. They don't want to be with a woman who slept with hundreds of men. Like that's just, and they don't want to be with a woman who has prostituted herself out. Now you could say like, oh well, it doesn't matter what men thinks. Fair enough. What if I don't care?
Well,
It's fine.
and just speaking on the nature of this conversation,
Yeah.
like I like discussing, like I like the way you can talk about a film in one vein of its theme,
Right.
and like I like how like you should be able to do that and it not be political, because like like in college, like that's how, and it's so crazy how it's gotten so convoluted
Yeah.
today, and everything's being taken so personally. Because like in college, I was taught to look like get a film and break it down by its like how is racism handled in this film? How is race considered? How is like sex considered?
Mhm.
How is like the political connotations? And that's how you analyze a film is in all these different veins, and you discuss that in each film, and you can do that with any film.
Yeah.
But it's just, I guess, with like clickbait culture, it's just being bastardized into these things, because like you can do that with the Lion King, and like I could look at the Lion King and make like a sexist argument about it,
Mhm.
and that's fine to intellectually discuss.
Right.
But what's terrible is a clip that comes out and says, the Borrego Brothers thinks the Lion King is sexist. That's idiotic.
Yeah.
Because we're discussing a film in its like feminist theme.
Right.
We're talking about the feminist and misogynistic theme in Poor Things, And like I think it's like healthy to have a discussion like that from a critical perspective.
Yeah,
Like you
absolutely.
know, I'm just hearing how this plays out and how someone could take it, but I think it's like it's what people
Yeah.
should do. It shouldn't be, clipped and shipped, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I'm pro man, I am pro women. Like I love both. It's like I love humans. So it's like it's just it's always with the intention of like I would love for the fulfillment and happiness of each gender and but sometimes you need to take there's a tumultuous road to get to that journey and that is the beauty of what can be told in cinema,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And that is part of it. But when it's so bastardized to where it's like and that message is I'm like that is especially from the rest of the film it's like that is so strange. It's like um I'm yeah I'm just I think it's important to talk. I'm just separating it out into its different themes because there's a lot of things about this movie I praise, especially the production crew. The production crew is outrageous on this film. I mean, just outrageous. It's top notch. Some of the greatest cinema I've ever seen. I mean, really, truly, and some of the best acting I've ever seen. But it's just, but I have some hot takes. I'm like, for me, I think Emma. I was like, man, I think she just did too much, like far of nudity to where it's like damn near softcore porn. And I'm like, um, it's almost like it's almost like she sacrificed that of herself so that to where I mean, you could almost put that on like a porn site. Like it's kind of crazy how.
Yeah. Well, remember blue is the warmest color.
Oh yeah,
I mean, like it's the same type of thing, you know?
yeah, it's the same type of
And
thing.
you have to ask why. Maybe that's part of the point, because you're sort of made to engage in this. You're made to engage in
Yeah,
this sexual act.
but here's the thing with the blue. Yes,
And so you have to ask, why am I being engaged in this?
but I
And
have.
also, is it worth it for an audience?
I agree.
Because what is this? This is a director's choice
Right.
to say, I want millions of people to engage in this sexual activity with me and with themselves and with everybody. What are the implications behind that?
Yeah, and here's the thing. I love blue as the warmest color. Okay, I have really no qualms with any of it.
Yeah, I loved it.
I loved it. It's like, and it's a lesbian love story, and the characters are incredible.
Yeah. I'm not talking about that scene particularly, by the way. I'm
Well,
just saying I love the film as a whole.
well, yeah. I mean, and like that, I do love the film as a whole,
I
and
take it as a whole.
and yeah, and even
Like the sex scene was just a part of it.
well, the
And
sex
look,
scene is
it was a bit absurd. I mean, it's like 15 minutes long.
yeah, and like I'm. It's weird. It's like I still look at that as a. I mean, you could kind of put those two together and kind of make it similar, but this one was different. It's like she was. This was like they were in love. They were making love. It's just like we were watching for a long ass time, and I'm like, and I can respect
I
that a
mean,
lot
that's what they
more.
did in Blue and the Warmest Color.
Yeah, and I respect that a lot more. It was like they were truly in love with each other,
Yeah.
and we just saw the rawness of it, and an exploration from that. And I have no qualms about it. I think it's a little
Yeah.
long, and I think it is kind of close to softcore porn.
What is the point of that? Like, why is that done? Because for me, it takes me out of the film. Okay, I'm taken out of the film. The director has to know that. It's pretty obvious. You're going to take
Yeah,
people out of it. People are
right.
going to be uncomfortable. So most people, I think, don't want to see that. So what is the point?
Well, the point the point is probably, I don't know. For me, the point was just a sexual exploration between two individuals that love each other. And to me, that's what made it worth it, is that they loved each other as characters in the film. They had a deep, deep love, so deep that they you want you to see how deep they go. And that to me,
But see, how
that's
necessary is that demonstration?
well,
And like,
I think because of how absorbent it is, that's what makes it necessary, because it's absolutely it's so outrageous of a display that he wanted to show you how powerful the love could be. Okay, but
see, sometimes I think that's lazy. Sometimes I think it's lazy because
um,
because you know, back in the day there was creative ways of demonstrating that. You sort of artistically exhibited that with a metaphor, with creative dialogue. If you look at all the old movies, they found different ways of exhibiting that type of connection and that type of intimacy. You had cut, they would cut away to something else, or when it's happening.
I'm
And
not a hater of sex scenes. It's just that
it's just
with
what is with this method of having the audience suffer through these things?
I didn't.
Is it because the audience wants it now?
Well,
Is
I think
that
he would
what it
say he
is?
doesn't care what the audience wants at that level,
You
but
think so?
I would say so. Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like
I would say he didn't care. He didn't care. I mean, he obviously doesn't care.
I feel like it's a result of demand. To some, it could be
I
to
don't know.
some degree.
Well, nobody knew Adele before, and I mean, maybe with Leia, I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with demand. I think it has more to do with what he felt was important for the story and the rawness of it.
You just think it's pure artistic direction?
I would say so. Yes, I'm not saying that it's the best direction, but and I don't agree with it entirely. I do think it could have been cut short. Like I was like 2 minutes of hardcore raw lesbian sex. That's good. I'm good with that. That's fine. But 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I'm like,
Yeah, anything
taking up.
past 5 minutes, you're making a statement.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I get it. I get the statement, but I'm like, I don't think it's necessary. But and 2 minutes is already pretty long.
And what necessary? What about right or wrong?
Well, I don't think it's wrong. Well, okay.
I think it's something to discuss because sexual acts aren't just nothing,
Sure.
and like,
Well, that's why I give him a lot. I mean, I think it's fine because they loved each other. They deeply loved each other in the story. So I don't see anything wrong with it.
so you think, yeah, the nature of the act matters, right? Because
Of course, the nature and intention to act. That's why I'm so upset over poor. I think it's Poor Little Things. I may be saying the title wrong, but
okay,
but either way, it's the Emma Stone one, and I think that's what made it wrong. Is that there was some. There was some overarching political narrative with a very popular younger actress that has a swarm of younger fans, that had nothing to do with love and more to do with like resentment and hate. And then also through that resentment and hate, she learned and she grew.
Mhm.
Where I'm like, that doesn't sound good to me at all, and it sounds dangerous ideologically. And because she was in love with the man right before. She was in love with Mark
Yeah.
Ruffalo, but she also hated him, said she wanted to murder him too. But that's also love. But and they were poor and they needed money, and so she was like, she went up to this hotel, who I already knew was a brothel, and then she didn't know. She was like, oh, I'm still kind of trying to figure this out,
Mhm.
and the lady was like, oh well. All you have to do is have sex with this man for like 30 minutes and we'll give you money for it. She's like, oh, wow, interesting. And she has sex with him. And then she comes back to Mark and she's like laughing. She's like, oh, you're definitely the best lover out there because I just had sex with this other man. And then Mark is like, you what? For money? It's like the worst thing you could do, which is kind of the worst thing you can do for as a woman in many respects. That's my
Mhm.
own take on it. And we can go deeper in that if necessary. But
Well,
Um,
but I think it's from a critical analysis of that theme in the film, it's worth considering because that's what that was put in there for. I mean, to discuss that, it was written in the film. So to look at it objectively, you know, I mean, it's fine to do. And the morality of prostitution. Is prostitution a moral act? I think is one of the topics that it's bringing up to an American audience because we're founded on Christian principles. And
yeah.
a lot of, I mean, probably most of the people who live here have the opinion that that is not acceptable. However, across the world, there are different opinions.
Okay. Well, if we're gonna go, because like
Well, that's what that
I have
film's
a.
bringing up.
Well, here's the
It's
thing.
it's bringing it up in a
Here's
disturbing way, so we can discuss it.
right, and that's what I'm saying. He did it. He did it. In my opinion, he did injustice to it because it's like, in my personal belief, especially because I've been reading the Bible a lot more, and we grew up with the Bible. And I have a different take than most Christians do, even on let's say prostitution. I believe that it should be. I do believe it should be legalized. I believe it should be regulated, and moral. It's. I would say it's more. It's definitely a moral, but I think it should still be accepted and tolerated to an extent because I think it would be a lot safer. But we also have to remember that Jesus himself surrounded himself with all types of people, including sex workers. So it was it so there is a level of forgiveness and also growth that can happen, but you never want to take away the gravity of detriment that you can have psychologically as a woman in that arena. And that's what I think he did an injustice for.
Sure. He made light of it.
He made light of it. And I'm like, I am not, because I feel like some people, as they hear me talking about it, they'll be like, oh my gosh, he doesn't like, he's saying that it's wrong for sex worker. I'm like, dude, that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he made it look like it's a good thing to do and that you're going to grow as a woman because of it. And you'll become extremely powerful and experienced and empowered. And that is clear. That is not the case that at all, you know? So, but I am also not saying that, oh, it's like the worst thing to be a or it's, I'm not saying that it's the end
Well,
of the world.
I mean, it's a nuanced argument.
Yeah, it's
you
very
know?
nuanced.
Yeah, and like in the film, like just talking about the film, it you know, it was this argument was brought to light, which is, a fairly I mean, I'd say it could be a heated argument in the country. It's not I don't think it's currently up for discussion. It's still illegal everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But perhaps in the near future, it could be discussed more, in detail with other countries having it legal. I don't know exactly where it is legal, but I think it's an interesting thing to bring up in a film, and it being treated that way is is um is very progressive, but in terms of the fruit that it bears, I feel like it could be barren in the way that it was brought out.
Right.
Which I think is the case with a lot of new filmmakers. Or I don't know who directed this film. They're probably not new, but like films, I'm saying newer films that have come out recently. I feel like that's the case. Like like films are latching onto a hot topic, a hot controversial theme, and it's just kind of thrown out there. It's kind of thrown out there, and there's not so much to sink your teeth into for it, and
Yeah.
it's just at the end of the day dragging you through the muck, and you have to do a lot of work to reason with the film, you know? And then if it's like if it's something so controversial and so abstract to the audience you're showing it to, right? Because I'd say to most Americans, that's going to be an abstract take. Most Americans haven't considered the morality of prostitution because it's been decided for us.
Well,
You know what I mean?
it kind of has, it kind of hasn't, because OnlyFans is a version of legalizing prostitution in many ways, because you can have sex on camera if it's porn. you know?
No. I mean, it's not prostitution.
It's not prostitution, but it's pretty darn close. I mean, it can be depending on the level.
I mean, I understand what you're saying in terms of like, but I think it's just I think it's a different argument. I would say it's a different argument because you're talking about the acceptability of sexualization and perversion,
Mhm.
which is what I was talking about with Eyes Wide Shut, which I think most Americans are familiar with and can say, words about because that's a big deal that's happening to everyone in America. But I'm talking like specifically with prostitution. I feel like that's not something much of us considered
Yeah,
because
and
it's illegal and it's just not the most pressing topic, which is interesting because it happens. It's out there. It's an interesting topic.
yeah, I really don't. I said legalizing it, but let's just put a pin in that, because like I don't know. I just don't want anybody to come with the attitude to me that because of what I'm saying about that film, I'm like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Because it's like I look at it from a perspective of putting that message out there is the most troubling. Like prostituting yourself or doing OnlyFans or sex work, it will drive a positive growth as a woman and psychologically. Like to me, I'm like, that is a terrible message, and that's what gave me the most trouble.
Well, but I mean, look at this as well. Like, we are in no way talking about or suggesting censorship. Censoring like these types of
No.
films or people who have this kind of message. I think it's part of the process in life is having people with alternative views and opinions, getting them out there,
Oh yeah.
and having it put out there through art and through story is really powerful, and it's a lot to take in because while you're watching it too, it's like not only are you affected by it, but everybody else is affected by it. That's what I felt while watching Barbie. Because like me watching Barbie, it's like I don't care. Like I don't care what they have to say about men and shit and like all this nonsense. Like that doesn't bother me. That personally, like it's silly, but when I imagine 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds participating in that, it gets discouraging. And but that's fine to have in society to kind of like learn from and grow from and continue to build. And my point with another note I had down with having films like The Northman and Marlowe, like we have to do a job of getting those out there.
Yeah.
Because you have these these movies that get a lot of attention that I think really don't
Yeah.
deserve it.
Yeah.
And you have great movies going by the wayside, with like The Northman. I don't think it did very well in the box office. I think it did okay.
Yeah, that kind of blows my mind, man.
Yeah, and Marlowe with Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
I don't know if it got any attention, and it is a sensational movie, you know.
Right.
And you look for things on these video streaming platforms to watch, and there's nothing there, you know. But yet there's these incredible movies being made, and that's kind of disturbing to me. You know, like, look, if someone wants to have a movie where they're talking about these incredibly disturbing subjects and painting it in a disturbing way, that's fine. But like, let's also, you know, market the other ones. Let's also put those out there because The Northman is just a ridiculous movie. It is such, a phenomenal movie. Marlowe, same thing, but they didn't get put out there. I haven't seen, especially Marlowe, because like that's what Liam Neeson should be known for.
Really?
Now, currently, yeah, because it's so good. But I think his action movie, I think it was Retribution, is what it was called, got way more attention. And it's like, Jesus. I mean, everybody's gonna think he's that guy, and like, look, he's an actor, man. It's the same thing with Nicolas Cage, you know, like he wants to work, and when his agent gives him a call and he says like, I have this amazing artistic piece, that sounds amazing, yeah, I'll do it. And he's like, but nobody's gonna watch it. I have this other thing that everybody's gonna watch. Like, you should do one for the fans.
Mm-hmm.
He's right too. I mean, he's right too. Like you want to service your fans, but there's also these amazing artistic movies. Like, he did Mandy, and Liam Neeson did Marlowe.
That's cool. You would say it's the same level as Mandy?
In terms of what?
Artistic achievement?
Yes. Certainly on the same level. But I have a affinity for Mandy because it's so my style.
Yeah, it is our
Personally,
style.
yeah, I really, really enjoy it and love it. But Marlowe, I learned things from.
Wow.
I was like, this is possible today. Wow, how amazing! Really, really cool to see a filmmaker do that today. You just don't see it or hear about it much because it's just great filmmaking. I don't know. It doesn't have, it doesn't have prostitutes.
Okay, I will say one more thing about that.
Yeah.
Because one last thing, then I'm done, because I don't want it to be taken out of context ever later, is that who knows? Nobody really knows the right thing to do with that, because it's like, I'm not saying, I had the only reason that I would even, I say that prostitution should be legalized is to help protect women in that position from any kidnapping or anything horrible or anything dangerous, especially STDs. That would be the argument for that.
Yeah, politically,
yes, and morally, I don't think you should ever do it. But
right.
But I would still, if they decide to do it, I would want the women to be protected and safe. And if that's what they decide to do with their lives, they are sovereign beings. That's what they decide to do. When you have a black market, and it's just whatever, then STDs reign free, kidnapping, sex trafficking.
Yeah, and you're talking about more of a political take,
right? And that's what I would. That's why I don't want anyone to say like, oh, he believes, prostitution should be legal. I'm like, from a political standpoint, yes, sociological standpoint, but from a moralistic standpoint, no, I don't think any woman should ever do that ever. But if they do, I would want them to be safe and protected. That's at my heart, because I just want women to be. I want women to be safe and protected, and I don't want them to get killed or kidnapped. Yeah. And especially, I'm 100% anti-sex trafficking. It's like that is. So I just want to make that clear. Like when I say that, that's where that is coming from. That's the intention. It's not
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, I just want it to be free reign, like everybody. No, that's not it. I just want them to be safe and protected. That's why I would want it to be regulated. I definitely wouldn't want it to just be decriminalized and not regulated, because then that's just worse. Then it's just the worst of both worlds, you know? Then it's free reign. But no, it should be regulated, and that way women are protected. And, it's against, we help solve human and sex trafficking, because that is a terrible issue in the United States right now. And some in our own films are going to be discussing that later on, a little foreshadow into some of our future films.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just discussion more on the critical elements of this film.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't suggest what I would know is best for our society. I don't work in that arena.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm speculating, and as far as the film, it's my critical analysis.
I agree. Exactly.
But okay, yeah, we can move on.
Definitely.
I think probably where we can leave off is talking about the filmmaking in the Midnight at the Orient Express. Maybe we can leave off there because we both saw the same video, which maybe we can.
Oh, you saw that one? You know which one I'm talking about? The YouTube video?
Yeah.
So interesting.
It was really interesting. Actually, I do want to have one more hot topic, but
what is it?
The Tom Cruise thing. I just think it's hilarious. But we can talk about the Midnight at the Orient Express, because it's interesting to see somebody's take on old versus new filmmaking. I think there's a lot of room for discussion in that topic.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've had a terrible time with making too many cuts in films, and making it's unfortunate, because in advertising it is a lot of times more effective to have cuts, just because you only have so little time. But when somebody has agreed to watch a film, you have more ability and free reign. And so I think you should honor that free reign of attention. They're going to at least give you 10 minutes. You might as well do some really cool shit
In film.
in film.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at the science behind that, because that's what these editors and DPs assumingly are coming from. The
Right.
science and data that's been built into what makes a film successful. I mean, you have to assume all these people have worked in and analyzed plenty of films the way they've been done, and now they've come to this conclusion as to what's best, which has been built upon the older films. So then you kind of have to ask why, like, how did it get here? How did we get to this point? And like, I think to some degree, it's people have like acknowledged that science and are making an honest go at like doing something well and better. And then to another degree, they're trying to innovate before they've thoroughly learned the craft. They're trying to reinvent the wheel before they've established what's already been working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because, like, with this example,
You mean with the new film versus the old?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm gonna refrain from going like super deep into the like film history and stuff, but like with that video exemplifying the new way Murder at the Orient Express was made versus the old way. This YouTuber was analyzing the different way it was made and how the new way has so many cuts and it takes away from the actor's ability to perform,
Mm-hmm.
and which then takes away from the audience's experience of immersion.
Yeah.
As opposed to the old way, you had these people able to bring out themselves, breathe their life into the film, which is ultimately more engaging than cinematography principles.
Right.
That's ultimately going to be more engaging. And so
Yeah,
that's kind of the
absolutely.
argument. And I think the reason that is just sort of people's professionalism now as like, a DP, they have worked on so much stuff, they know what works, what the expectation is, and they just kind of do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they need to release that, give themselves more freedom. And because it looked like just a beautifully shot run-of-the-mill kind of like flick, and on the new Murder Orient Express, whereas the other one was profound. And also a lot of people don't even do it nowadays the way they did it back then. And they would leave a lot of lingering, and they would leave a lot of one shots just all in one shot for like 2 or 3 minutes. The average length of the shot was like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. I mean,
yeah,
that's long just in general, but it's extraordinary. The acting ability and the performances were out of this world.
yeah,
But it really lets you breathe in the scene and really take it in. And the unique thing that they did is that they would re-record at different angles, different expressions of the same dialogue, which I thought was just amazing. And they would let you experience it the first time with, I guess, the most natural way that they actually expressed an emotion. And then later on, they would have a flashback to kind of trick the audience of of them saying the same line, but in a slightly different way, maybe more nervous instead of like
Oh,
blissfully
sure.
excited.
Oh, sure. That's interesting. Yeah, that's very creative.
And I was like, that is so, but it's a flashback. It's the same scene. They've already seen that scene, but now they're not sure because it's a whole it's a mystery.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's playing with the audience to kind of like give them red herrings based on their perception of that scene, of the perception of that person, of that actor's emotion in that scene.
Right.
And it was intentional red herring.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dang, that is super smart.
Yeah.
That is super smart. They did the same thing in American Psycho, which a lot of people don't recognize. There's a scene where Willem Dafoe.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a scene where Willem Dafoe is talking with him and talking with Christian Bale, the American Psycho, trying to figure out how much he knows about something. And they did 3 different, or I think it was like 5 different takes of one where he knows he's a killer, one where he doesn't know he's a killer, and third where he has suspicions that he's the killer.
Yeah, where he's unsure.
Yeah. And then what they did is they strung it all into that same sequence.
Yeah.
And it was a different, each frame was a different, not each frame, each cut was a different emotion.
It was taken from each one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's taken from each one. It was strung together.
Right, right.
I was like,
yeah.
I mean, it's almost like you can't believe the camera.
Yeah. And as an audience member, it's really, that scene's really engaging.
Yes.
Because it keeps you on edge with everyone. It's like, wait, does he know? Oh, he knows. And then you see the next scene, you're like, wait, does he?
Yeah.
And so it keeps this like ambiguous suspense And I mean, it's a really cool technique.
It's brilliant,
Uh,
man. I love it.
and yeah, I feel like okay, I haven't seen the new one. I've just seen like bits and pieces. But from what the gentleman was saying in the video, um, you get the feeling that you get the feeling that there's a deadline. You know, that somebody just has to kind of make these decisions, and they just sort of did them, and they rely on their like professionalism and expertise to take them through. And it's not so inspired, you know, and that's a shame. But I think I think part of it now, and I think this is not a hot take. I think a lot of people would agree with this. The bell curve has become so heightened, whereas before we had a bell curve like this, right, to where it's like between creativity and like and money and notoriety, to where like the best directors with the most money had the most like creative and inspiring films with like everything, right, like
Mhm.
at the top they have that. And there's everybody in between who has like you know a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Maybe they don't have much money, but there's a lot of creativity at this side. And this side, there's a lot of money, not much creativity, not much there. And then like at the very side, it's like it's all creative, and there's no money, and it's like it's off the walls, like with you know and you find gems on each side. Like on this side you have like Evil Dead, where it's
Yeah.
like, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
But like on this side you have like a Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
But now that bell curve has just been so heightened to where it's like everybody's up here. It's like it's all so much like in the middle of the road, like to where only the top guys have like the most creative stuff, can afford to do that.
Yeah.
And the middle budget stuff has just been taken away. And so
Yeah.
we don't have like that Miramax anymore that's producing these mid-range budget artistic pieces, and the low budget stuff just isn't seen.
That's fucking true.
My concept behind Barbarian, which that it's a bad movie, but it gets away with it because it looks so good.
Have you watched it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Um,
Is Timothy Chalamet in that?
no, Barbarian.
Yeah.
No, that's the Barbarian is the horror film. Which one are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of King.
Oh, yeah.
And why do you hate Timothy so much?
Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Because I think he's been gifted his roles. I don't think he earned them. I don't know why. I don't know why he's been gifted them, but he has been.
I love old Tim. I love little Timmy.
I like some of the roles he's been in, but I find it hard to believe that he's been the best for them.
Damn, dude, hot take. That's hot.
I know. And it's not that I'm not a fan or I am a fan or whatever. I find it hard to believe he's the most talented person out there. I mean, there has to be somebody better.
Mm.
And for almost all the roles he's been in,
Oh
there
my
has
gosh.
to have been somebody better. Like for Dune, for one.
Damn, that's the first thing I was saying. You think for Dune?
Definitely has to be somebody better. I mean, like he
Who?
was like, I don't know. I'm not like a talent scout. I don't know who's out there, but man, he can't be the best. He's just, people know him.
Did you watch that Woody Allen film with him?
Yeah, that's a good example, because that is horrendous, and he is so bad. I can't even begin to explain how bad he is in that film. First of all, he's a little dude, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is fine. That's all good. But he makes no attempt to be an older dude, because I think in the film he's like a college professor
Really?
or something. something like that. He's supposed to be an older guy in that film.
Wow.
He makes no attempt at being that, but he just kind of like tries to act like it. And it's so
funny.
silly, dude. It's like, man, this guy has to have anxiety when he's going to sleep because he knows how bad it is. He knew, like, he was kidding himself. He was like, I think I'm getting away with this. And he knows it's so bad. Deep down, he knows how bad.
What movie is that? The Woody Allen one?
Rainy Day in New York, I think.
Okay.
A Rainy Day in New York.
But you also watched the Wes Anderson movie with him too.
Yeah, horrible.
Really,
really, really, really bad.
Dang.
And look, he's just playing pretend. He just likes to play pretend. You know,
well, that's acting.
No, it's not. Not to Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh my God, dude, Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's what I'm talking about.
He's a
and look,
freak.
I'm talking about the greatest actor of all time.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not saying
cut the boy some slack.
No, but the level of depth in an actor like that, you can evidently see, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whereas with Timothée Chalamet, it is so paper thin in so many roles. You know, like
I heard King was really good.
I haven't seen it, and I've wanted to a couple times, but his face has kept me from it. Because I know it's well reviewed. And look, in Lady Bird, he did a great job.
Oh yeah,
he did a great job in that role.
Well, and the great thing is that I didn't even remember he was in that film. I just remember Lady Bird was a great film.
Yeah, he did a great job, and really, really well done. And not Gravity, Interstellar, amazing.
It's like when you don't notice him, that's when he's so great.
Yeah, it's kind of what you're supposed to do, huh?
Yeah, that is what you're supposed to do, huh?
Yeah, ask Gary Oldman about that.
Oh, old Gare Bear.
But
I love Gary.
Yeah, I think it ultimately comes down to the director. You know, he. You know what it is about Timothée Chalamet? He's like a 1930s actor. He needs somebody to tell him what to do. That's what he needs.
Yeah.
And I talked about this last time, I'm pretty sure, but he needs somebody to be like, hey, look this way, put your head over here and do this. And I'll take care of the rest. And that's fine for an actor to do at some point. You know, that sometimes that's what you need as a director. Like, it worked for Christopher Nolan. It worked for him perfectly. And
with who?
With Interstellar.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it worked for him. Like, awesome. And with Greta Gerwig, worked for her.
Yeah.
With other directors, I think they see him as Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to let him do his thing, right? Like, I'm pretty sure we talked about this last time because, like, Woody Allen is the epitome of that. Woody Allen is the guy who says, I hired you for you. I hired you as an actor. So, Javier Bardem, I'm not gonna tell you what to do because I want you in my film, right? And you do want him in your film because Javier Bardem is fucking so thrilling.
He's so thrilling
to watch.
So thrilling.
Timothée Chalamet, not so much.
Oh, Javier Bardem. I love Javier. I think he's one of the most underrated actors of all time, in my opinion. I think he's not given enough roles to work with.
That's true.
In my opinion, like I mean, dude, No Country for Old Men, like, and even his Pirates of the Caribbean role was so interesting. He did an amazing job. I was like, that's pretty good. That's fucking. Of course, it's Javi. It's Javier. So he's.
I don't think I've seen that.
Vicky Cristina Barcelona was, oh my gosh,
just so beautiful,
outrageous. Yeah, I'm in love. I'm with love with Javier. What can I say? You know?
Yeah, and you know, speaking of Spanish actors, also Benicio del Toro.
Oh,
and so, but why is that? Here's what I think. I think it's life. Like with the Humphrey Bogart. I don't know their story, but I think it's life. I think it's the life that they've experienced that has given them texture, that has given them
Absolutely.
that has enriched their souls. Sorry about that phrasing, but it is what it is.
What's wrong
Like
with that?
it just sounds corny as fuck, but it's like it's flavored them and give him them more breadth in their ability to perform. Whereas with a Timothy Chalamet, you get the impression that there's not a lot there
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah, I
of
can
life
see that.
experience and like all this and weathering. I see like a healthy young dude who's just been chilling. And I need some freaking drama on these guys.
Yeah.
I need some life. Like
Yeah, you look at Paul Newman.
yeah, I'm a wall. A lot of those guys, like it was a different time, so
I mean, they were
they had
actually really interesting people.
yeah, and they lived life.
They lived, man. They were crazy dudes.
Yeah,
Paul Newman, Marlon Brando. And then
yeah, Marlon Brando, yeah, but to the utmost degree. I mean,
he was crazy. And Matthew McConaughey, like you read Matthew McConaughey's bio and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy went through life, man.
mhm.
He lived it, man. He did all sorts of things. And that's what made him interesting. That's what gave him texture.
I know, but see, that's why he can do a Dallas Buyers Club,
Yeah.
where it's a McConaughey fest in that film. I mean, he is. It is so much of him on screen, and it's such an engaging and entertaining film. I mean, I could we do that with Timothy Chalamet? I would not be interested.
Oh, we're picking on Timothy so much, man.
He's also an example. I mean, there's other actors, like
He should just spend like
similar.
3 years just finding himself and going like just crazy and just like living life in a
Yeah.
crazy way,
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think also the roles you take on can attribute to that and how you treat them.
Yeah.
Like if you read like I just watched the film, so it's on my mind and I'm thinking about it. Like Seabiscuit,
Oh.
like in the film, Tobey Maguire's a sort of seasoned.
That's a pretty good movie, huh?
That's a freaking amazing movie. That's a great movie. And Tobey Maguire's character is like an abandoned. Well, he's not abandoned. He's an orphan during the Great Depression, or his parents give him up. So whatever that is, and he's given up as a child, and he has a hard upbringing in like the stables for horse races, and he's like dirty fighter jockey. And like if you read that script and you just read it in your house and just practice like in your house and stuff, and I feel like you're not going to get very far.
Mm-hmm.
You got to like live in the stables, like I want to see Timothy Chalamet live in the stables. And in Tobey Maguire's character is a boxer. I want to see him get punched in the face. Because Tobey Maguire, he dude, in that film, he's got a wild look in his eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, wait, is it
It's
Tobey
amazing.
Maguire? Yeah, it is. Wait. Let me just make
Spider-Man?
Yeah. But he's got a wild look in his eye, and it's crazy to see that transformation for a character you're used to in other roles. Like, and you have to imagine he went through things
Mm-hmm.
for that role.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what I'd like to see with Timothy Chalamet. I mean,
Old Timmy.
and I don't know what he's doing or how much he's preparing or what have you, but that's just my speculation.
Well, speaking of great actors, there was a debate with Tom Cruise being the greatest actor of all time,
Right. Yeah.
the GOAT.
Yeah, and this was a silly like debate. I don't even know how it was anywhere close to an authentic debate
Mm-hmm.
on like JRE. Then it was brought to the Joe Rogan Experience, and then it was brought to other podcasts and the like. I think like the King and the Sting and the Wing or whatever, talking about Tom Tom Cruise's prowess in the industry, being the best actor of all time versus other people, and it's a hilarious argument. But just without getting too much into the takes on it, what is your take?
Of him being the greatest of all time?
Where does he rank in terms of
I would
actors?
say top 10 or top 15, I would say.
Interesting.
I would say definitely probably top 10, in my opinion. Yeah.
In terms of great actors.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's interesting.
Because I also do put place in marketability and revenue in that as well. That is a piece of the puzzle. Because it also encourages other growth of films. It also encourages more films. So
see, I wouldn't put that. I wouldn't classify that in. If we're talking about an actor's greatness, I wouldn't.
I would
have that
put
as
it in
qualification.
I would. That's why I would put him in the 10. If we don't have him then I guess maybe top 15. But
well, okay, that's but that's a good question. It's like, does that qualify somebody more than another? How much money they've generated?
Yeah, I believe that's a factor because it's a very clear way of looking at how much of an impact they had on with the film.
I just think that doesn't have anything to do with what's on screen.
I think it does. I think it does have to do with on screen because it's literally the film and the money is part of it.
In terms of quality.
In terms of quality, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that
it could, but I don't think it has a hard correlation because there's plenty of poor films that do very well.
Right. No, I'm saying that it is a factor to consider. I'm not saying because there's plenty of amazing films that don't do great at the box office, but we still use that as a understanding. Like whenever it was like, what was the box office? It gives you a qualification of like where they're at. So I would still use it as a qualifying variable. I wouldn't say how much it weights how much how much weight we put into it. I would say is up for discussion, but I do think it makes an impact. Like if you look at Heath Ledger's performance in The Dark Knight, his singular performance is, I believe, what really skyrocketed that film and also helped him make a lot of money.
In that case, they correlate.
Right.
But in other cases, there's no correlation. So for me,
I would say there's always a correlation, but
I don't think it's a viable correlation because it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't matter.
I say it always matters.
Well, let's give another example of.
Give me a time where you don't think it matters.
Well, we just have to think of a big movie that didn't have terribly good acting.
Transformers.
Sure, that's a good example.
But still,
it's like Shia LaBeouf as an actor, like because like does that bring him up in acting prowess because he made a lot of money with Transformers? I don't think that has anything to say about his acting talent.
I would say that it does because it he definitely helped make the film, helped make it successful. But what
does that have to do with his acting talent? Like the film made a lot of money.
It was because of his acting.
Poorly,
he didn't act that poorly in that film. It was fine.
Well, he didn't act poorly, but it wasn't.
act-
There wasn't much to it. You know.
Yeah, but that's still he was still acting. He was still acting. Like he was still putting on.
I know he was. I know he
fine.
was
It was good.
acting, but I'm saying the money that was made off of it doesn't have anything to do with his acting.
It does have a factor. I mean, that's
What
why,
does it matter if Transformers made 500 million versus 10 million? His acting was his acting. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm saying that his acting still influenced that film.
But what does that matter in regards to his acting quality?
I'm saying it's only a factor. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's everything. I'm saying that's a factor to consider.
I'm saying how well the film
much
does
of a financial influence
doesn't matter.
I'm saying it does. Yes, I believe it does.
Okay, what about Tenet? Tenet's a good example because you have two actors that had wildly different performances, whereas the money was the same.
Well, I think that's a great example. I think if you would have fucking had, who did he want? I think it was Chadwick Boseman. I think it was Chadwick.
Yeah, it was.
He wanted him.
Yeah.
If you would have had Chadwick in that, it probably would have made twice as much, in my opinion, because of his performance. So I do believe that even that example is a good example of. I mean,
but let me
fucking good. It still did well, but it's because of the writing and everything held it up.
But
he dragged it down.
Let me now poke the hole in that. You have the movie with because like I'll go back to Shia LaBeouf because like the argument is Chadwick Boseman is a great actor, so Tenet would have been more successful because of him.
Yeah.
So
I'd bet money on that shit.
Yeah, of course I would too. But Shia LaBeouf, right? Great actor.
Right.
The Priest movie, Shia was a great actor. Yeah. Why didn't the Priest movie do well?
Well, that's why I say there's factors involved.
That's why I'm saying it's non.
Well,
it doesn't correlate like hard and fast. So it's not worth considering.
It is worth considering. Just because it doesn't have a high correlation doesn't mean it's not worth considering.
There's no direct correlation.
There is direct correlation. It's just that, especially over the years, here's the thing: Marvel has diluted the correlation and has really fucked a lot of people over. Marvel and DC, where they keep shoving stars in your face. Because we used to, in the old days, even in the 80s, even in the 90s, if you would put a front runner lead actor, it would have more weight and people would actually go and see it more on the box office.
That's a good movie. Yeah, that's going to be a good movie because he's in it.
Right.
Yeah.
But because they've been, the audience has been screwed over so many times.
You can't trust it anymore.
They can't trust it anymore. But now... say it doesn't hold weight, I think is misguided. I feel like all it is at this point is like it's an amplifier variable where it can really amplify the film, or it can and it still amplifies it, but it's only amplified by the writing, the surrounding marketing, and all the other different facets of filmmaking in general to help amplify it.
I guess you can. I mean. If you want to consider it, that's fine. I mean, I guess that's your prerogative. But for me, it's like I'm not going to take anything away from Daniel Day-Lewis's his performance in Phantom Thread because it didn't do well. You know what I mean? Like his performance was fantastic.
His performance
I don't care how well the movie did.
Well, okay, so that I believe is just a marketing problem.
I agree.
I think it's just a marketing problem.
I completely agree.
Yeah, so
it has nothing to say about the performance. You know what I mean?
Well,
I think what it comes down to is like the idol aspect and influence that they have when they make these big movies. Like how big of a star and idol they were
Okay,
plays a bit of a part.
it does play a big of a part because
Yeah.
Daniel isn't known as an. He's known. He's not like. He isn't known as much as like an icon. It's weird. He's got this weird thing like as a filmmaker, right? As us, he's MJ. He's Michael Jordan. You know,
Right?
He's,
yeah, exactly.
He's like, I mean, he quite literally has like almost as many as Oscar Academy Awards as MJ has rings.
Championships, yeah.
You know, so
Mhm.
he's a bad man, and you know, to have him in your film is it's beyond. It's incredible, but.
Mhm.
But he doesn't necessarily have as much of a star factor as somebody like Chris Evans, and so
I think that's a quality worth considering.
Yeah,
Star power.
Yeah, the star power it does because you look at Leonardo DiCaprio, his star power is still very high,
Right, exactly,
and it's way higher than Daniel Day-Lewis. But in terms of acting ability, I mean. Yeah, it's tough. That's why it's like in terms of
it's interesting because you can break down acting ability. You know, you can break that down on its own.
Yes. Well, so
but when it comes to greatest actor, you are kind of forced to consider star power and isolate acting ability. You know,
and that's why I believe that the greatest actor of all time is still Marlon Brando. Is still Marlon Brando because he has the highest. He has some of the highest grossing films, highest revenue, but he is undoubtedly has the greatest. The absolute greatest. I mean, there would be no Daniel Day-Lewis if there was no Brando. You know, he has impacted so much. I would say if we put star power together with the equation, then you would have to put Brando as first. And then you would have to put Daniel Day-Lewis as second.
No,
and
I still give it to Daniel Day-Lewis.
And then you would have to put like either Paul Newman as third, and then maybe Leo as fourth or something like that, or maybe Leo is third. Probably Leo's third, honestly. Leo is so incredible. Like
I definitely put Leo as third or second.
Third or second, it's perfectly applicable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not above Brando. It can't be Daniel DiCaprio. It can't be.
Why not?
Because of the amount of films that he's done and of just absolute timeless classics that Brando has and how we've basically almost paved the way for so much of acting in general, method acting, his own story. I mean, the gross of a lot of his films, the box office hits that he had. I mean, he's got it all. He's got it all, you know? So I would still put Brando as first, but, you know, I don't know. It can be tough because, you know, the problem is that Daniel lacks a lot of star power, you know? In comparison to DiCaprio and Brando.
Here's the thing. Daniel Day-Lewis lacks a lot of star power now. He had plenty of star power back in the day.
You mean with
the slew of movies back in the day?
Which the only one I can think is
Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, Last of the Mohicans.
That was a huge one.
Yeah, he had a lot of star power then.
That's what I'm saying. Like in his career, he had star power. And also,
but the
Age of Innocence.
But the quality of that star power also makes a difference because DiCaprio has almost timeless star power.
Look,
Brando has timeless star power.
I think DiCaprio is OP on star power. I think he is through nobody. I don't think anybody really comes close to him in terms of star power because, dude, he had it when he was like 18 to today.
Now, he had almost Basketball Diaries, man. He had
almost
14.
It was a little under the radar in comparison to the stuff that followed. but it was still big.
I mean, he was born to act, man. I mean,
Yeah, his star power is through the roof.
it's through the roof.
But
his acting ability is unbelievable.
well, do you know I saw a chart? I
Yeah.
saw a chart that outlined actors and their performance, not their performance, the film's performance
Mhm.
and critical reviews and how many bad reviews they've had versus how many good reviews they've had. And Leonardo DiCaprio has not made a bad film. He's the only actor on, at least on that list, that does not have a poorly reviewed film.
I mean, that has a poorly reviewed film.
He doesn't have one.
Oh.
Leonardo DiCaprio does not have a poorly reviewed film. He's never made one. I mean, dude, that's ridiculous.
That's insane.
That's insane. And he probably won't. So that's why I put him as number 2. But
Well, yeah.
Tom Cruise. See, that's
where's
where
Tom Cruise on
that's
it?
where my argument comes there, because Tom Cruise is at the bottom of the fucking barrel.
Oh,
He's
with what?
made a lot of shit films. He's made a lot.
well, he's
mean,
made a few, but
I'm comparing him to great actors. In the slew of great actors,
I would say
he's made a lot of bad films. I mean, he's like 70-30. Like
Yeah.
almost 25% of his films are like bad.
I don't know about that, dude. Did you look it
I
up?
saw the chart. Yes.
Well,
He
The
has a
Mummy
lot
is
of bad
one.
films. He has a lot, man. I mean, he's been acting since what, the 80s? I mean, there's a lot of shit in between there.
I don't know. I would put him still as maybe number 5, number 6, number 5.
Greatest actors of all
Yeah.
time?
I mean, his star
he
power
wouldn't
is
be on my
also
list,
pretty
man.
OP.
His star power is way, way up there.
I mean,
It's like
so
it's
high.
up there with Leonardo DiCaprio.
It's right up there with Leo.
Yeah.
But he's never won an Academy Award, right?
I
I don't believe he has.
Really?
No, I don't think he's ever won an Academy Award.
Well, I see that also is not too much of a qualification for me. It's there, like the awards they've won, but it's not. It's like
It's not that much.
Yeah, because like Leonardo DiCaprio,
What? He's won.
I know he's won, but he's only won one.
Yeah.
That does not come close to describing his excellence
No.
as an actor.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Not even close.
Yeah, because he's made plenty of films that probably should have won, but
Yeah, where he deserves awards. It's not just The Revenant.
No.
Yeah, it's a lot of films, but yeah, I mean, like with Tom Cruise, for me, he's just made so many poor ones where he's had just like kind of lackluster performances.
yeah,
Just weighs it down for me too much.
I don't think so, man.
That's just my opinion. That's just how I feel about it. You know,
I
where
would definitely put him in top 10. Definitely.
I don't think he'd be on my top 10. I think he's done too many poor films.
Who would be above him?
I mean, to name a few, Brando for sure would be there.
Of course,
Jimmy
Brando would be
Stewart
there.
definitely be there.
We'll rank it.
Probably Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, above
Tom Cruise?
Above
Yeah.
Tom Cruise?
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
I don't think so, man. Well, Philip is a hard one. Philip is very difficult. One, because R.I.P. He never got to complete it.
I mean,
He never got to complete his run.
hey, he died. I mean,
So
if
sad.
you want to compete, you got to live.
Oh, dude, that's terrible.
I'm sorry. That's
Don't
how
say
I
that.
look at it in terms of ranking. You got to be objective. He would say the same thing. You know, like I wish he would have. Everybody wishes he would have, but unfortunately, he's gone, and his time was cut short. So, in terms of his work, he doesn't have as much as others, unfortunately.
Such a shame.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at the work that's there, that's what I'm basing it off of. You know,
But you would still put him in your in top 10?
I don't know. I'd really have to think through the top 10 to.
I wouldn't. I don't think I could.
I'm saying I put him above Tom Cruise. I don't know where Tom Cruise ranks on my list, but he's probably not in the top 10.
Damn.
And Philip Seymour Hoffman is above him.
Tom is definitely in my top 10. I mean,
I'd
Brando
put Matt
is.
Damon above Tom Cruise.
Oh my gosh, dude.
What is the best film Tom Cruise has done in terms of acting? What's
Top Gun? I love Top Gun.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
It's a great film.
You're probably right.
It's a great film.
Yeah, and that's not like the best performance. I mean, like, I'm really trying to think of through Tom Cruise's roles, and honestly, I feel like his best performance. Oh man, one that's
A Few
coming
Good
to me-
Men.
That's a great performance.
It's amazing.
It's a great performance. It's like not in the top 100 performances for me in film, but I think Magnolia is probably his.
No, I would not.
His performance in Magnolia?
His performance in Magnolia was incredible, but I wasn't moved by it.
Really?
Not really.
Wow, that's interesting.
No, I love PTA.
I remember watching that film for the first time, and I was like, "Wow, I have a whole new respect for Tom Cruise."
No, I mean it's a phenomenal performance. It's just not my preference. I think it's fine. I mean, I think it's an amazing, shattering performance. Incredible, but is Keanu Reeves in your top 10?
Keanu Reeves? No.
Okay. I know. I already knew.
Same thing with Mel Gibson.
Oh, what about Mel Gibson?
Not in the top because he's done so many poor films. And he's done so many great films. You know, he's done all.
I mean, how much did Braveheart wait? I mean, how much? Like, if he had just done Braveheart, maybe 2 other films.
Well, he would need more.
Well,
but hey, it certainly helps. That's a great performance.
Great performance.
I mean, yeah,
it's one of the greatest performances.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
It is.
If we could take out performances, just greatest performance.
Yeah, greatest performances. Yeah, that's an interesting list. Braveheart's up there. Let me tell you that. From an actor who's not like as high as the other actors on the list, probably, but who doesn't get enough credit, Mel Gibson. Braveheart is up there.
Oh, Braveheart is up there, dude. It's in top 10, in my opinion.
God damn it. You're jumping it way to the top.
Because I already know in my heart. I know. I know when
There's repeat
I know
actors on the top.
There's performances. So which performance is the greatest performance of all time?
The greatest performance of all time? Man, I don't know who performed. I don't know, man. That's really tough to say. I mean, I'm tempted to say Jimmy Stewart. That's a Wonderful Life.
What?
But I'm a little bit biased because I love it so much. But I think that is such a sensational, gripping performance from an actor.
It really is, man. It's yeah.
And it chronicles the man's life. So I think that adds an element of difficulty and precision you have to have. And he plays all the emotions. He takes it all the way to the tops. But another one is The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger. That was up there. And it might be above that one, even with what it is. You know? Also, the father in Bicycle Thieves. That is a ridiculous performance. That's like something that you'll go back to over and over again, and you'll see different things.
I need to watch that movie.
Yeah, and Godfather is for sure up there. That's totally ridiculous. Like with the Godfather, it's the creativity. You know, I mean, the creativity to put that character together is once in a lifetime.
Yeah,
that is one of the most creative characters that's ever been established on film. So, I don't know where those rank. What do you think? What are some of yours?
Performances. Well, Daniel Day-Lewis from There Will Be Blood. Woo!
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
I can just watch that every day, man. That film, when he did There Will Be Blood, I was like, I didn't know you could do that. Like I didn't. So I would say There Will Be Blood is just one of my all-time. It's just it's a beautiful performance. Oh, I just love thinking about it. That is definitely one of my favorites. I love Leo, but I'm trying to figure out what performance made me feel like that.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, what from Leonardo DiCaprio?
Leo is always like he's always like a straight 9, on all films. He's always like an A.
Yeah, I know.
And Revenant was A+, but to me, it didn't make me feel like the outrageous performance. I mean, and that's where Daniel. See, that's
where Daniel Day-Lewis lives.
That's where he lives.
That's what I'm saying.
That's where he lives, dude.
That counts so much.
It does because
it outweighs everything. Does it not?
Oh my gosh, you can't say that.
That's the number one quality.
You can't say that.
That is the number one quality.
Why is it that? Why would you say it's the number one quality?
Because it's sheer talent and excellence and execution. It demonstrates exactly what an actor's trying to achieve. Like that's where a Dustin Hoffman sneaks up on my list because he's had a lot of those roles. He's had a lot of those.
Oh, he
sneaks up on my list because he hasn't been, I don't think, in the kind of quality films that Leonardo's been, that he's been in, but he's certainly made him that way with his acting because Rain Man has no business being as good as it is, but it is because Dustin Hoffman puts together an absolute fucking just slam dunk of a performance.
He does.
Right? It's like unreal. But yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis lives in that vicinity. I mean, he doesn't stray far from an A+.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. There Will Be Blood is just absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. And then even Lincoln. Lincoln is extraordinary.
Yeah. Lincoln's
it's extraordinary.
Amazing.
It's like you're watching Abe Lincoln.
Yeah.
But even though
You know who walked into that domain?
Who?
Was Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, he did.
He just walked into it. He was like,
with which film?
Now I only act good.
Yeah.
I think with every film in the last 10 years.
Except, what about Napoleon?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard his performance is amazing. Despite the film not being good.
Yeah,
is what I've heard.
Man, it sucks, man. I love Ridley. I wonder what happened there.
I haven't seen it. I mean, I don't buy it yet.
I've seen some scenes with Joaquin. I didn't, I was like,
you weren't too on it.
I wasn't too on it because he doesn't use. I always have a problem if they don't use an accent in period piece times. His accent is just normal, like American.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's interesting.
And I don't like that choice. I'm like,
yeah.
It's like
make it French even.
Make it French. It's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a French accent. And to me, it's a little lazy, and because even in Gladiator, he had an accent. So it's not like he can't do it.
Yeah.
And it's the same director. I was like, Ridley,
yeah.
Just tell him you want an accent.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I don't know.
That's I was like,
yeah, that's kind of weird.
Weird choice.
That is a weird choice.
You didn't do that in Gladiator. Why'd you do something different? And I love Ridley. Ridley, he's the master, man.
Oh yeah, that's why I was excited to see it.
Me too.
Because he was directing it.
I know, and I'm still gonna watch it. It's just that frustrated me when I saw that scene. I was like, what the hell? Why didn't you?
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's weird. So, yeah, I mean, one of Joaquin's best performances was Gladiator. You know, he can touch that. He can touch the ceiling.
He was good in Gladiator.
And then
Joker.
Yeah, that's where he brought the heat, man.
Oh yeah,
he brought
Joker's
the heat.
Ridiculous.
He brought the heat with the Joker, man.
Yeah, he took it all the way there.
He did, and it's weird how that character really draws people out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like,
yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, their take on it. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I love
There's
that.
a lot to go off of.
And there's also, did you see the new actor from the Batman, Robert Pattinson's universe with the Joker?
So uninterested with.
I know.
I did. I think I have. It's like a younger guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have seen that.
You see his audition tape?
No. Is it pretty wild?
It's not that wild, but it's like, it's interesting. I'm like, okay, you know, and he wanted to be the Riddler. He never wanted to be the Joker. But then they gave him the Joker, and because of that other guy playing the Riddler. But honestly, I don't know. That guy, it was very. I could see a lot of greatness in him.
Yeah.
So whether he does well or not in the next movie with Batman or whatever, I think he's got plenty of talent and skill to really take things to the next level.
I mean, it's kind of a shame because I'm just fatigued like everybody else.
Yeah, I know. It's like the superhero stuff is guys, we got to stop. Like, enough. Like, don't do it.
Yeah, it's so done.
It's
and it's the kids.
It's abusing.
I know, it's the kids, right? Kids want, that's what they watch. That's what they want to watch. And they're going to watch it 100 times. So like, it looks like that's what everybody wants on Netflix and what have you. But you know what? At some point, the adults have to decide what is good for people. And you have to make that film sometimes.
Yeah.
Instead of just pandering to the fucking clicks, you know?
I agree. Well, that's why it's like, and talking about performances, we got to talk about Cillian. He's in the rankings now with some of the greatest performances of all time with Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I would definitely put him in top
performances.
Yeah.
With Oppenheimer.
Yeah. I would put him in.
Yeah. I mean, I'd
put him in at least top 25.
Really? Oh my God. I would not. No. He's probably breaching the top 200 with that. Maybe.
Jeez, man.
I mean, dude,
maybe top 50.
I mean, I liked Oppenheimer. I mean, I thought it was.
I loved it, man.
Yeah, I thought it was a good movie, but I wasn't particularly taken aback by any one thing. Where I felt I should have been. I just felt I should have been with the grandiosity of it all, and nothing totally took me there, I guess.
I loved it. It took me there for sure. I just bought it again, and I was like, "This is great. It's a fantastic film." And and there's that scene where he's like old, and I'm like, "How did they do that?"
Oh, that's a great scene.
How did they do
that?
Yeah,
that was a great scene. Definitely one of the highlights of that movie for sure.
I couldn't believe that when he's old and he's taking the medals and the look in his eyes. I was like, how do you do that, man?
Yeah.
How do you do that? That's there's something almost unsettling about it.
Yeah. That was really, really good.
And you listen to Oppenheimer when he was around that age, and he was sharp as a whip, man. I mean,
really?
Sharp as a tack. He was a brilliant mind to the end of his days.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. And Cillian really did justice. Really did him justice. It's amazing.
I mean, I like the movie. It's really good.
So who has the greatest performance of all time?
Who has? I don't know. I list those. I would have to think through it more. I'd have to talk through those performances more because arguments could be made for so many of them. And I mean, like, it's so nuanced. I mean, like with Jimmy Stewart, for example, with his performance in It's a Wonderful Life. What I like about Jimmy Stewart is that he injects his Stewartness in every film,
Hmm.
but in no way is it ever boring, stale, or repetitive.
Yeah.
Right? He's just kind of this person. He speaks in that way, and it's in the films that he does, but it's in no way negative in terms of its experience. You know, Rear Window, while not being terribly drastically different of a character in the way he's just speaks, approaches, like, it's Jimmy Stewart in Rear Window. It's also Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life. But it doesn't matter that he's, kind of talks the same or whatever. Isn't that interesting?
It is really weird. Yeah.
It doesn't take away from the performance at all. And it, like, or the value of his acting. I think it's like it's so good. And whereas like a Brando in Godfather, or like a Gary Oldman, he creates these, unique, very unique characters that's totally, you know, different from each other. It's just a different style of acting, because Leonardo DiCaprio, he kind of adds his Leonardo-ness
Yeah,
to
he
certain
does.
movies, right?
Yeah, it is.
And so I don't know. So it's like there's so many different things to consider in greatest performances. Like the Godfather's up there. For me, It's a Wonderful Life is up there. The Dark Knight is up there. In terms of how to rank them, it's, I don't know. It's so difficult to say.
It's very difficult. It is-
Forrest Gump's probably up there.
Oh yeah, yeah. There we go. Forrest Gump. I was like, I'm missing somebody.
Yeah. I mean, Forrest Gump's probably up there.
Forrest Gump is 100% up there
Yeah.
with greatest performance of all time. It's
Yeah.
has to be top 10.
Yeah.
Has to be. I
Mhm.
mean, oh, what about
For sure.
Amadeus?
I mean, I don't know, man. I have a lot of difficulty discounting that, which I feel like I should, because it's like not nearly as big of a movie
Yeah.
as the others. But if we're talking about performance, man, it's what's difficult to discount is his creativity, because his character is so creative. What he put together for a character. I mean, I remember watching it recently, and I was like, "How do you do that, man?" He just put his soul into it. He's like, "I'm just going to create this. I'm going to try and do Mozart justice and create this
Yeah.
insane character,
Yeah.
because it's impressive. His laugh, his mannerisms, his eccentricities. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. That's why I was like, if we're talking performances, now obviously him and as an actor, I can't even recall another time I've seen him. Do you know him?
Yes, but
What's his name?
the name will help, because I know I'm having a hard time disassociating him from Mozart now, because he's so much of that character. But if you see him in other things, you're like, oh yeah, oh he was in this. Oh, that's right, he did this and that. But now I can't disassociate him from his character. So what's his name?
Tom Holch.
Oh, that doesn't help.
It doesn't help, and it's because he didn't really do any. I mean, he did Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Parenthood,
Oh.
um,
He
Strange
didn't do
Human
he did,
Fiction, Jumper.
okay. Oh. Wow. Okay, so he really didn't do too much.
No.
Hmm.
Animal House.
Wow. That's interesting. He just put out this one-hit wonder.
I mean, there are other
It
great.
happens.
There are other films that are like good.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, this is just outrageous. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. That's up there for sure.
it's one of the greatest performances of all time.
Yeah. I mean, it's certain. It has to be in the top 100, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
would put him definitely in like top 25.
Oh, what about Lawrence of Arabia?
Yes, I mean, of
Dude,
course, Peter Tool.
dude,
Peter Tool. I mean, you got
that's up there, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. It's up there.
That's got to be in the top 10.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of performances, dude, first of all, it was all Peter O'Toole.
It was, yeah. Also,
Yeah.
well, and the Clark Gable looking gentleman.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He's an
No, he was
Egyptian
great.
actor.
He was great, but
It's fantastic.
he was a side character.
Yeah.
He's really good though.
He's really good.
Yeah.
He's also devilishly good looking.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, man. There's other great films that we're not thinking of.
Oh, I mean,
Performances.
Humphrey Bogart, Casablanca.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a huge one.
That one didn't necessarily. I mean, it's great, but it doesn't like touch me like
Really?
Amadeus. No.
Man, yeah, that one is up there for me. Orson Welles, obviously, Citizen Kane,
Right.
of course. And I'm just going through the top movies list. You know, I think Gene Kelly in Singing in the Rain does not get enough credit because he has the added element of dance, which is not to be understated, man.
No.
I mean, like, first of all, his acting was tremendous. Very, very good actor. But his entertainment value was so high, and his dancing was like, dude, it's not just like he's dancing around and oh, that's beautiful. It's like it's physically impressive.
You know what? And this is gonna be. We have to cut this out. It's hot take, but are there any female actors
Mm-hmm.
that? Of course, Meryl Streep.
Performances,
yes.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot
That are in the
that's
top
true.
10.
That's true. We just mentioned the men, which is
Yeah.
not good. Yeah, Sophie's Choice is way up there.
Yeah.
It's way up there.
But is it in top 10?
In the top 10, I'd have to rewatch it, but I mean, you can make an argument for it for sure.
And what else?
By Meryl Streep or other actresses?
Other actresses.
Audrey Hepburn in. I'm trying to decide. I mean, I'm thinking Funny Face.
I was gonna say Funny Face, but it's not. It doesn't outrank Amadeus. Like, I'm using
No,
Amadeus
but it
as a weight.
doesn't. No, but they're close. I mean, like, I don't think. I think they're close.
I don't
do.
think.
I
don't think they're that close.
I really do. Yeah.
I don't know. Really? Think about it.
I am thinking about it. Yeah, I think her performance is
I mean,
really
here, man,
impressive.
what's crazy is that this is the cream of the crop of women. I mean, Audrey, it doesn't get much higher than Audrey and Meryl.
It doesn't get any higher than Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
Other than Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah, and Audrey. Now it's like she's one of the greatest female actresses of all time.
Yeah, she's in the top 5.
Yeah. So, and here's the thing: her greatest performance almost doesn't. it almost is overshadowed by Amadeus. Think about that.
Mm, I
It's kind of
mean,
crazy.
yeah, but you have to look at the way things have been written in the past 100 years, because you have had male-led role like in the past 100 years, right? 50 of those years they were written for male leads, and then women had a chance like after that
You mean
50
lead
years.
roles? You mean?
Yeah, like powerful lead roles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so with the time that women have had to excel in their performances, like they've done pretty damn well. I mean, I don't know if it's just as well as men. I also don't know how interesting that is, but you know, you have had them reach those heights,
Oh, absolutely.
certainly.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, like, because what's another one of Audrey Hepburn's is, I mean, there's more. I'm just not thinking of them. I mean, Sabrina is another one. Dude, listen, and it's not. It's almost not. That's what I mean. It's not so fair to compare men and women, just like sheer performance, because like her performance in that, and this is from the '60s. You know, I'm pretty sure it might have been the late '50s. Oh, Roman Holiday's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Roman Holidays. I don't think at that period of time a man acted as well as she did in Roman Holiday.
Hmm.
I think she was above anybody at that point. Maybe that year, right? But like, um, at that time, where was I going with it? I'm losing track of my thought now. But I think that where was I? Where was I going?
I was
with
going to
that?
say,
Oh my
actually,
God.
it's just something come to mind is
Yeah,
Raging Bull.
Go ahead.
Raging Bull is
Yeah,
one of the greatest
that's
performances
another
too.
good one.
Just I love that performance, man. A lot of people would say Taxi Driver, but you know I love Taxi Driver, but it doesn't get my goat. You know, it doesn't. It's like I love Taxi Driver. It has a special place in my heart.
Yeah,
But if we're gonna talk about performances,
yeah.
we're talking Raging Bull, baby.
I think in hindsight, it's not a hot take to say Raging Bull is a better performance.
I would say so.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hot take. I think it would have been back in the day because Taxi Driver was so famous. It
It's
had,
so prolific.
had all the quotes, right? But in hindsight, Raging Bull outclasses Taxi Driver.
I believe so. I'm in agreement.
And look, it's Scorsese on Scorsese. He's not going to care.
Yeah.
What was I trying to say about women actresses? I mean, I just think
That they're awesome.
Yeah. I mean, of course. Like, what? Thank you. Okay. What? Thank you for giving me the time to think about it, because what I was going to say is the performances are so different, especially back in the day. Like and this is kind of what I think is a bit beautiful about filmmaking back then, is that the performance you got from a woman was so wildly different than what you got from a man.
Yeah.
And Audrey Hepburn's performance in Funny Face, Sabrina, Roman Holiday, it's this beautiful feminine take on life.
Yes.
That was so sensational. It's so amazing to see on screen. That, like, I don't want to take anything away from that. You know, I mean, as far as what it ranks against a man, I mean, you know,
And we're also
it's
men.
difficult. It's difficult to rank.
We're also
It's
men.
true. Yeah. I mean,
You know, so we're gonna probably.
it's true.
But I think we can look
Roles
at,
hit us different. I mean, it's true.
yeah. So, but at the same time, it's like I think it should be separated. In they're different. They're just different performances. We should talk about them in difference so that you know it could just be more clearly understood.
Sure.
Because I think that's a huge thing. Is like, yeah, the big takeaway for